January 25th meeting to order of the Complete Streets Commission. And thanks everyone for coming. I see that we have a quorum. We do have 2 members absent tonight, Commissioner Maloof and our Vice Chair, Venkatraman, is absent today. But let's do roll call. Commissioner Katz.
Here.
Great. Commissioner DeSnyder.
Here.
Great. Commissioner Ambiel.
Present.
Perfect. And Commissioner Oyang.
Here, present.
Happy New Year. Thank you. Happy New Year, everyone. So now that we have quorum, we will continue our tradition of taking a minute of silence and reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to yourself. Great. So let's move to public comments for items not on the agenda. Do we have any members of the public this evening who would like to make a comment for an item not on the agenda? You may raise your hand in the Zoom app, or if you're dialing in, I'm not sure we have anyone dialing in, but if you're dialing in, you can push *9 on your phone. And if you're not figuring any of those things out right now, you can also just speak up and let me know you want to talk tonight. I'm not seeing anyone with their hand up, and I'm not hearing anyone. So I will wait another 5 seconds, and then I'm going to close the public comments for items not on the agenda. Okay, so we have no comments tonight for items not on the agenda. Let's move to our consent agenda. Our first item, because it is the new year, we have a new council liaison. Councilmember Weinberg was with us for 2 years, but we would like to introduce, and I think all of you know, she has served as our liaison in the past, but our new liaison, Councilmember Nisa Flieger, who I'm sure would like to say a few words to us.
Thank you, Chair Banerjee. And I'll be very brief. I know you have a heavy agenda tonight, so I just want to say good evening. Happy to be your council liaison. My kids are here with me, and so we'll be listening in, but excited for the year and to be working with you as your council liaison. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And welcome to your family this evening as well. Commissioner Katz.
Yes, I'd just like to, Nisa, welcome back, and it's going to be great having you on the as our liaison on the commission. I'd just like to take a minute and have a moment of silence for the families of the victims in Santa Cruz. It's been kind of on, I think, everybody's mind, and I just want to acknowledge that they're in our prayers, and that we'll just take a moment of silence, and however you would like to acknowledge something personally about them, we hope that they get the support that they need and that they can move on with their lives.
Santa Cruz, something?
Half Moon Bay, excuse me.
Half Moon Bay. Okay, sorry.
I misspoke.
Okay, pardon me.
So thank you, Commissioner Katz, for the suggestion. It's a little out of order in the agenda from where we normally would do something like that, but nevertheless, let us just please take a moment for that. So let's come back to our agenda. We are at agenda item number 2, which is approving the minutes for our December 12th meeting. I will let everyone know that I sent a correction to staff on email earlier today in the commissioner's report section. I corrected the name of the group. I spoke with the Los Altos Community Coalition just so it was accurately reflected the name of the organization in the minutes. So besides that correction, does anybody else have any changes or questions on our minutes? Otherwise, we will take a motion in a second. So it sounds like we have no changes or questions. So who would like to make a motion to approve those minutes? somebody?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as they are written.
Second,
So we have a motion from Commissioner Katz, a second from Commissioner Amble. Can everybody just raise their hands and say aye? Aye. Commissioner
Aye.
Schneider. Great. So that motion passes 5-0 with 2 members absent. Let's move on to agenda item 3. This is about our update to our annual goals for 2023, which we reviewed, I think, at our last meeting, and also our annual letter to City Council, which this is the first time that letter is coming on our agenda. Marisa, did you want to say any more about this item?
Oops, there we go. I received comments from a few of the commissioners, so those were included in the revised version. So feel free to take a look at that. And I don't think we need to show it again on the screen, but you have it in the packet, so you can take a look at it at your convenience. And our chair wrote the letter, as is customary and happens every year. So you can feel free to take a look at that too. And I don't think there's anything else that I need to say about it at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you. I wrote the letter I looked at the letter the commission wrote last year and kind of modeled it after that. And we don't know at this point the date of the annual City Council retreat. I don't know if our council liaison knows, but the intent is to have our stuff done and ready and sent.
So it will be Chair Banerjee on February 21st at 5 p.m.
Oh, great. That's fantastic, because that's actually before our next meeting. So I think what I would like to do tonight is I wanted to say 2 things. One is what we didn't complete when we finished our work plan, and the subcommittee did a great job of updating that work plan with our staff liaison, is we didn't do our annual calendar, and whether we want to do an annual calendar or do something, for 6 months out. I'd like to keep the subcommittee open so they can still work on creating that calendar for us. As I recall, we have a couple months programmed for the beginning of this year already. And I think what would be a good goal for that subcommittee is, whether you can bring it back to the next meeting or the meeting after, is we would want to send a copy of that when we send our work plan to City Council. Once again, we send it a second time in the spring when we have our annual joint meeting. But for right now, what I'd like to do is we all reviewed and gave feedback on the work plan last month, and now the letter draft is here, is just get a motion and a second to approve that this gets sent to City Council in advance of their annual February retreat. Who wants to make that motion?
I move that we send the letter on as written.
Thank you, Commissioner Ambiel, and with the attachment of the work draft plan. Great.
Yes, with the draft work plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to second that motion?
I can second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Schneider. Cindy, you get to raise your hand first next time. So if whoever agrees yes, and I can call for the no's in a second, but for the yeses, raise your hand. And Cindy, I see 5 yeses, 0 no's, and 2 people absent. So now that we have closed our consent agenda, let's move on to our discussion items tonight. We have 3 discussion items tonight. Just to let members of the public know how these items are going. Oh, actually, sorry, before we move off of item number 3, I realized I forgot to call for public comments on this. Does anyone want to talk about item 3, which is our work plan and our annual letter to City Council? I am not seeing anyone or hearing anyone. So let's move to item number 4, which is
Chair, if I may interrupt for just a second, there's someone with a mic that's throwing a whole lot of feedback. So if anybody has something next to their mic or a piece of paper, or you're not speaking, if you could go on mute. Thank you.
Okay, and it's possible it was me, because I think I had a paper copy of the agenda possibly by my mic, so I will move that out of the way. And if it doesn't stop, then raise it again, because then it's somebody else. Okay, thank you. So our item number 4, and for all of our discussion items, what we're going to do is we're going to have staff present to us, and we will probably take commissioner comments first, then go to public feedback, then for commission discussion. Although sometimes we might go straight to public feedback and then just bring it back for commission questions and discussion at the same time. So item number 4 is a list of accomplishments for 2022. Certainly, when I looked at this list before the meeting, it's very impressive, Marisa. So thank you for the work you're doing. I will let you turn this item over to you now.
Thank you. I'm gonna share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So as we know, every year we kind of take our 5-year list of goals. It's been a running document that we've had for the last handful of years, and we update it every year. So, you know, in December or January, we update it for the coming year. And as I was going through the goals, you know, kind of the goals document from last year to update it for 2023, I was kind of starting to remove all the things that we had accomplished last year, since they'll no longer be our goals for this coming year. And I thought it would be nice to, for the first time, kind of save those into a document that we could review and have kind of a record of all the things that we've accomplished in the last year. So that's where this document came from. It's not something we've done in the past, but I thought it would be nice to start now. And it follows the same kind of structure and layout as the goals document, as you'll notice. So this is, we can just run through all the things that we accomplished last year. Goal number 1, as we're familiar with, talking about the goals the last few times we've met, is to plan and implement safe multimodal transportation solutions that align community needs with city priorities. And now we have a list of all of the things that fall into that category that we accomplished in 2022. So we finally got our Complete Streets Master Plan adopted after 2 City Council study sessions and 3 rounds of revisions. So congratulations to all of you for all your hard work on that. And thank you to City Council for adopting it. We implemented bike and ped improvements aligned with the resurfacing program. So that was one of our new goals. I think it came online a year or 2 ago, is to align the bike and ped improvements with the resurfacing program. That way you get the kind of added, you know, economies of scale benefit of having a freshly paved street that you can put the striping back with something that's new and improved. So we aligned that for the first time. And that was through our Safe Routes to School signage and striping plan, the program that is kicking off in construction right now. It kicked off in December and then was paused due to the rain. So it's ongoing at this time. We implemented a student drop-off pilot program on Hardeen behind Los Altos High. And we monitored and improved the Almond Avenue cycle track and the bike signal. And then as far as school improvement plans, we successfully converted all of our school improvement maps into the construction documents for the school routes. That was from our list of goals for last year. And that was the signage and striping improvement plans, phase 1. And that's what's under construction now. Also, St. Joseph is under construction as a part of that project. And El Camino Real is planned for construction this summer. The Hardeen student drop-off falls under that category as well. And so does the cycle track on Almond Avenue, the updates that we made there. We successfully identified the kind of budgeting shortfall to complete the citywide improvements on school routes. And we were able to allocate additional funding from our CIP funds. We kicked off our annual promotion of our suggested routes maps to school districts. And we kicked off our promotion of school routes, the School Routes app, to parents and students, including our presence at Back to School Night. We deployed additional features of the app, including the carpool feature and the walking school bus bike train feature. And then we developed conceptual plan line drawings from the Complete Streets Master Plan into actual plans. And so here's the list of those: Hardeen, Clark, Covington, El Camino, Grant, Loyola Corners, Barry and Miramonte, St. Joseph, and Alicia. And we also developed a plan line drawing for North San Antonio. That was not included in last year's goals, but another accomplishment. And then as far as our Safe Routes to School education and encouragement program, we finalized and publicized the plan and curriculum. We received input from the Complete Streets Commission at the advisory committee and the school administration, and we refined plans accordingly. Also not included in our list of goals last year, but still accomplished. We kicked off the yard sign program. We conducted the walkout at Los Altos High. We developed monthly messaging campaign for messages to parents and students. And we provided technical support to Los Altos High, including morning and afternoon commute guidelines in the form of a flyer, a map, and a video. We held family bike days in May of 2022 as an encouragement program. And we also hosted International Walk to School Month in October of 2022. We administered our first annual school administration survey, hand tally and student survey, and we solicited and incorporated feedback on that as well. We received our update from the police department about school traffic and the crossing guard program. It's kind of an annual goal. And we, moving on to traffic calming, we established a plan for Cuesta Drive traffic calming. That was a big accomplishment. And we kicked off our discussion of AB 43, which will be coming back in a couple of months. As far as aligning CIP transportation program to CSC work plan, we reviewed the annual streets resurfacing program CIP and did our street selection, including for bike ped and traffic calming improvements. We reviewed and prioritized annual transportation CIP selections, and we received the biannual update report. We coordinated regional transportation on behalf of the city of Los Altos. We coordinated multimodal transportation projects at jurisdictional borders with regards to active transportation. And that included coordination with Santa Clara County on Foothill Expressway intersections, SFPUC on the Hetch Hetchy Trail crossing, County and VTA on Homestead Road Safe Routes to School project, and with Caltrans on the El Camino Real resurfacing and bike lane bikeway project. And then we also coordinated signal timing with the Synchro Green project on El Monte and the coordination of the other signals on El Monte and Foothill Expressway. And we also monitored the implementation of other regional plans, including the VTA bike parking guidelines. Our second goal is to manage long-term cumulative impacts from public and private development projects and regional traffic. So to that end, we received the update presentation on the citywide traffic model in 2022, and we provided the model to developers for use in their traffic analyses. I know that happened for Distal Drive and a couple of other developments as well, which I will include when I get the names of them again. And then as far as transportation policy and programs, we established a vehicle miles travel and level of service policy, and that is making progress and nearing adoption. We finalized our transportation analysis checklists for transportation according to land use type. And those were what you all reviewed a few months ago, or about a year ago, maybe. And then we also finalized our CSC development review questionnaire, and we have circulated it to the developers and the planning department so everybody knows what we're looking for when we move into those review meetings. We hired a consultant to develop the first streetscape plan, and we advised the Planning Commission and City Council on transportation related aspects of development projects. Goal number 3 was to achieve effective transportation related community engagement with residents. So our accomplishments there included using the Complete Streets website as an informational portal that residents can look to for updates on all transportation projects. We also utilized Complete Streets Commission meetings as a public forum for transportation topics. We had a number of projects that we discussed. And for promoting walking and bicycling in the community, we made annual plans to support Bike to Wherever Day, formerly Bike to Work Day, including activities and promotions. And our fourth goal was to pursue and secure grant funding for safe, connected, and sustainable Complete Streets projects. We did identify a list of 1 to 2 projects to pursue for funding. We applied to 2 grants. One was the ATP grant, which we did not receive, and one was the OBAG 3 grant. We actually submitted 2 applications for OBAG 3, and I will be giving you some good news about that later in this meeting. When I made this document, it was pending, but we found out that we did win funding for one of those projects. So I'll give you some more info on that at the end of the meeting. And then we are working on a working list of grants to track, and that so far includes Measure B, OBAG, ATP, California Clean Air, and that's a list that's in progress, and we will continue adding to it as time goes on. So that brings us to the end of this presentation. If anyone has questions, feel free to share them.
Great, thank you for this presentation and for all your accomplishments. And also for commissioners for their contributions to this. I think what I'm going to do in the essence of time is just go straight to public comments first, and then we'll come back to the commission for questions and comments. Anyone from the public have a question or a comment on this item? You can raise your hand in the app or push *9 on your phone, or just let me know verbally if you want to speak. I see one public speaker, Danielle S. You can unmute your mic and we will give you up to 3 minutes to speak. We don't have a timer on the screen. I'll be timing you and you can time yourself. I'll let you know when your time is finishing.
I just wanted to say very quickly, congratulations and thank you for all your work on this. This is wonderful. I didn't realize everything that's been done. So all the achievements. Yeah.
Appreciate your comment this evening. It means a lot to hear from a member of the public. Thank you. Anyone else with comments on this? I'm not seeing any other public comments, so let's bring it back to the commission. Anyone with questions or comments? You can do the same thing, either raise your physical hand, your virtual hand, or just speak up. I don't have everyone in the same video pane at the same time, so. Anyone? It's awfully quiet tonight.
Steve, are you raising your hand?
Yes, I don't have anything content-wise in the document. I think it's extremely well done, and I just want to thank Marissa not only for pulling it together, because I think it's really great to have a record of what we did accomplish, but also for coordinating all the work and working so closely with the council to make sure that we are all aligned, which I believe we are, or we would have never gotten all this done. Or enable Marissa to get it all done is more accurate. So Marissa, thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
And anyone else from the commission? I'm not seeing anyone else, so I'll just briefly say, is in our annual joint meeting with City Council, which usually happens in the spring, the commission will share the accomplishments that, as Steve well put out, we've worked with staff who's done a lot of the work, actual work for these things, and they will be highlighted in our annual joint meeting with the City Council. And then I think I will briefly just say, besides all the fantastic work, I've 2 small comments. One is on the last item in 1B, when we talked about the concept plan lines being updated in 2022. My memory is some of those concept lines were updated, but not all of them were, and that we collected a lot of feedback through the CSMP process on some of those. And I'm not sure that all that feedback has been aligned and all of those updated. And I'm happy to send a follow-up email and sort of call out, which of the segments I'm thinking of, but it could apply more broadly as well. And the second comment I have is on 2B, when we're talking about the policy and study methodology in the last item, we're talking about a development review questionnaire. I don't remember seeing the final, and I would just ask Marisa, could you share that questionnaire with the commission? Either share it out on email or just bring it to our next meeting as an informational item so we can all see what the developers are receiving from the planning department.
Sure.
Thank you. So if nobody else from the commission has anything else on this item, we are going to move on. I'm not hearing anything, so let's move on to item number 5. Bicycle friendly community application. This is an exciting item because we used to be a bicycle friendly community, and I think we're not right now, but it's exciting because it sounds like we're going to try to be one again. So I think with all the work that Marisa just showed us, I can't imagine they would deny us becoming one. So please, Marisa, tell us about this.
Okay. All right, can you see my screen?
We can.
Okay, so this topic is about the bicycle friendly community designation, which is a designation by the League of American Bicyclists. And this will be some of the things we'll be talking about in this presentation. So I'll give you a little intro to the League of American Bicyclists and then some information on the bike friendly communities designation. And then I will talk about the benefits of being a bike friendly community. And then we will kind of loop in some of the CSMP and CSC goals and how they relate to this topic. And then the last time that we submitted an application, or that an application was submitted for the city of Los Altos, was in 2014, and we received the kind of scorecard that we got from that time. And so I'll be sharing that. It's kind of a dashboard for where we were then and where we can go in the future. And then we'll kind of mention some other Bay Area cities that are nearby and what everyone's designation is at this time. And then we'll talk about the deadline for the next submittal, which is in September. And then we will go through the detailed feedback that the league gave us after we submitted our previous application that shows where we can improve. So this is from the League of American Bicyclists website with this is just some background information on their mission and goals and values. So the League represents bicyclists in the movement to create safer roads, stronger communities, and a bicycle-friendly America. Through education, advocacy, and promotion, they work to celebrate and preserve the freedom that cycling brings to our members everywhere. So this probably sounds a little bit familiar in terms of the CSC goals and the Complete Streets Master Plan goals and vision as well. And also from the League is that they believe that bicycling makes life better for everyone. And when more people ride bikes, people are happier, healthier, communities are safer, stronger, better connected. The nation is socially and economically stronger, and the environment is more protected, and we are slowing climate change. Their vision is a nation where everyone, whether they bike or not, recognizes and enjoys the many benefits and opportunities of bicycling, and where everyone can experience the joy of bicycling. And their mission is to create a bicycle-friendly America for everyone, improving lives and strengthening communities through bicycling. And so part of what they do a lot of things, but part of what they do is this bicycle-friendly designation. And there are designations for communities, so cities and counties. There are bicycle-friendly designations for businesses, and then also for universities. And this kind of provides advocates with kind of a map or vision for how to build a more welcoming bicycling environment for these different cities, communities, businesses, and universities, and how to make bicycling a real transportation option and recreation option for all people. The bicycle friendly designation uses the 5 E's. So I thought we could go over those. These are also in our Complete Streets Master Plan as part of our Safe Routes to School chapter. So the 5 E's are pretty commonly used in bicycle planning. So the first one is equity and accessibility. So that's creating, bicycle-friendly infrastructure and programs that are available to everyone, and considering equity in bicycle planning. And then engineering, so that's creating safe places to ride and also to park. So that's kind of the design component. Education is, teaching and educating and, advocating for bicycling, why it's important, and then also the skills that are needed to ride confidently. Encouragement is creating a strong bike culture that welcomes and celebrates bicycling. Evaluation and planning is, a lot of what we've talked about here, how to kind of put a program in place and then evaluate it and see what's working and what can be improved. And then also of note is that previously, and in the last time we applied, enforcement was one of the 5 E's, and across bicycle planning in general, enforcement has been removed from the 5 E's due to the disproportionate impact on communities of color that comes with over policing. So that's something to be aware of. And now we'll talk about the benefits of being a bike-friendly community. I think that one thing for us to keep in mind in our bike-friendly planning is that having this bike-friendly designation shows commitment to bicycling and to active transportation on grant applications, and also to our neighboring cities and to regional governments and to our residents. As we've talked about in these meetings, the CSE meetings, bike-friendly streets are safer for everyone. So bike-friendly streets are safer for people driving and people walking. Bike-friendly infrastructure tends to slow vehicles and create a space that's safer for all users. And then increased biking also has been cited in lots of different studies over the years to show positive impacts in communities, such as higher property values, increase in retail activity and the economy. It helps local employers attract talent and also improves public health. So lots of good reasons to be a bike-friendly community. I thought this would be a good time to revisit the goals of the Complete Streets Master Plan, because a lot of these align with the bike-friendly designation. So you might recognize this slide from a previous presentation, but these are the goals from the CSMP. So on the right-hand column here is kind of my summary of what's detailed a little bit more in the center column. So activity, so one of the goals from the Complete Streets Master Plan is to increase walking and biking and transit use. So that aligns with the bike-friendly community designation. Safety, to reduce collisions and to reduce vehicle speeds, also aligns with bike-friendly communities goals. Connectivity is to connect community destinations and fill gaps in infrastructure, so that aligns as well. Climate change as our CSMP goal aligns, meeting climate goals, that aligns with the bike-friendly community designation. Community input and engaging the community in transportation projects aligns as well. And so does the evaluation portion, evaluating programs for effectiveness and refining accordingly. And then this is also a slide that should be familiar to you from our goal setting discussion at our last meeting. So these are kind of some extracts from the Transportation Division and Complete Streets Commission 2023 goals that we approved a few minutes ago on the consent calendar. So our first goal is to plan and implement safe multimodal transportation solutions that align community needs with city priorities. And that includes implementing CSMP priority projects, safe routes to school programs, traffic calming, regional coordination on transportation projects, and multimodal parking. So all of that aligns with bike-friendly community goals and actions. Managing long-term cumulative impacts from public and private development projects and regional traffic includes transportation policy and programs and streetscape plans and the general plan, which all can be tied into bike-friendly communities. And then achieving effective transportation-related community engagement with residents, also a part of the engagement and various different components of the bike-friendly communities. So that's outreach strategies, promoting walking and biking as encouragement, and then integration with the school district, which has been a big component of our encouragement as well. And then pursuing and securing grant funding is also connected to the bike-friendly communities because, like we mentioned, the bike-friendly designation will kind of show our dedication to complete streets projects and active transportation. So as you can see, the bike-friendly community designation really does tie into all the goals of the commission and a lot of the goals of the Complete Streets Master Plan. So I think this is something that is worth our time and effort to pursue. So the starting point is the last application that we submitted, which was in fall 2014. I reached out to the league to get some more information. They were very helpful and sent us our application from last two times actually, and then all of the feedback that they gave us last time as far as things that we can do to move up to silver or maybe even gold status. One thing that I did ask them and I haven't heard back on yet is if our bronze status is still in effect since it is so old. So not sure about that at this time, but I'm sure I'll hear back from them soon. They've been very helpful and responsive. So here are the kind of all the different areas in which we were scored last time. And we can kind of run through these quickly. Arterial streets with bike lanes at that time. This was the average, kind of what it would take to get to silver. So I know we've implemented a lot more bike lanes on arterial streets. So at this point, we might be better aligned with a higher designation. And that's something that we will put some effort into as a part of the application, which is due in September. And then total bicycle network mileage is another thing that we'll be looking at. Public education outreach is something that we have been working a lot on through our Safe Routes to School program, as you know, and we've talked about a lot. Percent of schools offering bicycle education is another thing that we've been working on. Bike month and bike to work events is something that we have ramped up, and we have some plans to even make that program more robust this year. That'll be in May. The active bicycle advocacy group we do have, and the bicycle advisory committee, that's all of you. So thank you. Bicycle friendly laws and ordinances. This is something that I have reached out to our legal team to kind of talk about what opportunities are there to get some more things in place. And so the bike plan, current and being implemented. So our score should go up here now that we have our Complete Streets Master Plan adopted. And then the different category scores up here on the top right. As we know, enforcement is no longer being considered. So this will kind of change slightly. And then there is some ridership statistics that we will revisit as well. So I know that something of interest is kind of what are other cities and communities that are near us doing. So this is kind of a comparison for you. So bronze, this is our current, or at least former designation. And also in the bronze category are Cupertino, San Mateo City, San Mateo County, Redwood City, Santa Clara, South San Francisco, and San Carlos. And then silver is where we hope to aim. And currently in the silver category is Mountain View, San Jose, Mill Valley, Marin, and Fremont. And then gold status, which we hope to achieve maybe this round of submittal. Maybe we'll need to keep working for that, but that's currently Menlo Park and Palo Alto and San Francisco and Oakland and Santa Cruz. So it kind of gives you a good dashboard of where some of our neighbors are and where we can hope to go. So like I mentioned, the application is due in September of this year. And as we've seen, there's been a significant amount of progress in the last couple of years since we all have been working together that could help the city of Los Altos reach the silver status. And since the application is due in September, we still have some time to get a few more programs and projects in place. So one of the attachments in the agenda packet was the detailed feedback that was provided to us by the league during the or in response to our 2014 submittal. And I kind of went through line by line and picked out, most of the things that are included in there, and kind of provided also in the staff report a status update on each item. So we can go through these as well. Adopt the Complete Streets policy with implementation guidance. So that's our Complete Streets Master Plan, which was adopted a few months ago. So that's exciting. Endorse NACTO Urban Bikeway Design Guide. That is included in the Complete Streets Master Plan and something that our team uses in kind of all of our review and design of new bicycle infrastructure. That's something that I've shown to all of you. I know I used clips from the NACTO Urban Bikeway Design Guideline when we were discussing the Hetepetchee trail crossing, and something that we use to inform our review of the Caltrans El Camino Real plans. Something that we use to review the cycle track on Almond Avenue. So that's kind of the best practice in the industry and something that we refer to often. Number 3 is to develop and implement streetscape design guidelines. And that was included in the Complete Streets Master Plan. That was at the request of City Council in one of our study sessions. So that was a great recommendation that I believe came from Councilmember Flagler. So thank you for that. Increase the amount of high quality bicycle parking throughout the community. We do have a bicycle parking ordinance that's in progress with our legal team. It's been a collaboration between the transportation and the planning department. And that's something that you all will be reviewing at the joint Planning Commission CSC meeting in March. So we can look forward to that. Number 5 is to increase road safety for all users by reducing traffic speeds, especially around schools and in neighborhoods. This is something that's in progress as AB 43, which we had our preliminary discussion on a couple of months ago in the CSC meetings. That's also something that's being worked on the back end in conjunction between the Transportation Division and the Police Department as an ongoing discussion. And it's also in progress with our school route signage and striping implementation, which is under construction now. Number 6 was to develop a system of bicycle boulevards. The first bicycle boulevard in Los Altos is going to be implemented as part of the school route signage and striping project. So that is the bike boulevard along at the back of St. Joseph and on Eva. We also have the opportunity for a citywide bicycle boulevard project. We could have a consultant kind of come up with kind of a network based on our Complete Streets Master Plan. It could factor in the Los Altos Loop, which was part of the implementation strategy of the Complete Streets Master Plan. So that's kind of something that already has some traction in the CSMP, and we have the opportunity to further develop that. So number 7, continue to expand the bike network, especially along arterials with different types of bicycle facilities, including cycle tracks and buffered bike lanes. So to this end, we have that new cycle track along Almond Ave that was installed about a year and a half ago. And we have our proposed protected bikeway project along North San Antonio Road. And then we also have the approved and planned protected bikeways along El Camino Real. Number 8 is ensure that all bicycle facilities conform to current best practices and guidelines, such as NACTO, which we discussed a couple of minutes ago. So the Almond Avenue cycle track is currently being considered to be updated to meet NACTO guidelines, and all new bikeways will also meet NACTO guidelines. That includes El Camino Real, any future projects on North San Antonio, and all the other future bikeway projects. Number 9 is to install a bicycle wayfinding system with the distance and destination information. That's a recommendation in the Complete Streets Master Plan. So that's something that we are well positioned to get started on. Number 10 is a bicycle safety education, should be a routine part of primary and secondary education. And that's in progress as a Safe Routes to School education program. Number 11 is to expand the Safe Routes to School program to all schools, which is also ongoing via the Safe Routes to School program. And number 12, schools and the surrounding neighborhoods should be particularly safe and convenient for walking and biking. And that's in progress as our signage and striping update that is under construction now. Number 13, continue to expand public education campaign promoting the Share the Road message. That is complete and also will be ongoing as part of the yard sign campaign. We're still in the process of distributing yard signs. We've distributed hundreds of them so far, and we still have more to distribute. Number 14 is to expand the encouragement efforts during Bike Month in partnership with local bike advocacy groups. Proclaim May as Bike Month. That's something that we could also ask council to declare, and then host and sponsor and encourage more bicycle themed community events, campaigns, and programs. And so, like I mentioned, that's something that we did last year and in previous years before that. And then we have some plans for 2023 with even more robust Bike Month programming. Number 15 is to promote cycling throughout the year by offering or supporting more family-oriented community and charity rides. That's in progress as part of the Bike Family Days program, and also something that I kind of noted as a commissioner opportunity to potentially plan a charity ride. Ensure that there's dedicated funding for the implementation of the bike plan. That's programmed as part of the CSMP and an ongoing effort on the staff side. Pass ordinances that protect cyclists. That's what I mentioned earlier, that I'm in discussion with our legal team on what opportunities we have there. And the final slide, the final item is number 18, encourage local businesses and agencies and organizations to promote cycling through the Bike Friendly Business Program. We don't currently have any bicycle friendly businesses in the city of Los Altos. I thought that could be a good commissioner opportunity as well to organize some local businesses and get some of them designated as bike friendly businesses. Number 19 is to design and publish a local bike map with existing on and off-road bicycle network infrastructure. This is something that we sort of have in place as what Alta put together as far as our Complete Streets Master Plan bike network maps. So we could hire them or hire another consultant to kind of, finish that and put it into a format that would work for this purpose. And then finally, to offer bicycling skills and training opportunities for adults more frequently. And that's kind of another commissioner opportunity to organize with the League of Bicyclists on. So that concludes the presentation. As you can see, I think a lot of things are well underway. There are a couple of things that we could use some help on and some commissioner organizing on. And so at this time, if you have any questions on the process or bike friendly communities, feel free to ask them. And then we are taking comments on kind of these 3 bullet points. So first of all, do you kind of support the overall process and plan that's outlined in this presentation? And after reviewing the table, are any of the commissioners interested in organizing any of the items listed as commissioner opportunities? And then after reviewing the detailed feedback from the league, which is part of the agenda packet, are there any additional items that commissioners would like for staff to consider for pursuit?
Thank you for this thorough presentation. We'll first start with commissioner questions, then we'll do public comments, then we'll come back for any direction. Commissioner Ambio.
Thank you. What is the timeline, Marissa, for the application? When is it due? When do you anticipate having a first draft done that we could review and comment on prior to submission? And will you be submitting this to council prior to submission to the entity?
The deadline is in September of this year. There are, I think, 2, you can submit twice a year. So we are shooting for the September deadline. The draft of the application will get started, kind of following this presentation. So this is the kickoff. After this, we will work on updating kind of the submittal from the previous round to reflect all of the things that have changed in the last 9 years. And then we will bring it back to the commission in the summer, probably late summer. And then as far as council, I can include that as something that you would like for us to consider.
All right, I have plenty of comments in the next round, but I will hold off on my comments at this point.
Commissioner Katz.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions. One is that it's clear that staff and the commission are already doing a lot of things that will improve our chances to get a better result if we reapply in September. I'm wondering two things. One is, how much work is there for staff to actually get that new application in place incrementally over what you're now doing? And then the second question I have is, and I may have missed it in the presentation, what is the payback for the city of Los Altos for actually being a silver labeled city versus a bronze labeled city? And then the third thing has to do with a little more detail. I see we have no businesses that meet the criteria to be bike friendly. What is that criteria that a business would have to meet in order to be bike friendly?
So starting with your most recent question and working backwards, there is a whole list of criteria that's on the League Bike Friendly website. And I don't know the details as far as, there are a whole list of kind of criteria. So I would imagine that if you meet some of the criteria, you receive the bronze designation. If you meet more of the criteria, you get to silver, et cetera. And so that would be something to look into. But it can be things like providing bike parking, providing, showers for employees who bike, providing benefits to employees who bike, providing there's a program called Safe Ride Home or something like that, where if you have employees who bike, there's an option for them to take a shuttle home if it's dark or late or something like that. So all different kind of criteria of varying levels of, intricacy that are interesting to peruse on their website. And then the previous question that you had before that was, what are the benefits to the city of Los Altos? That was covered in one of my slides. So let me just go back there. So I think, kind of the biggest one as it relates to what we talk about as a commission is showing our commitment to bicycling and active transportation and bike safety for grant applications, but also to our residents and to our neighboring cities and regional governments. And then also because, as we know, bike friendly streets are safer for bicyclists, but they're also safer for all other users. And then the final bullet point here, the third one, doesn't have as much to do with the designation itself, but just the benefits of more people walking and biking. And then you had a first question. Can you remind me what it was?
Yes, how much work it was going to take for staff to actually pull this all together?
Yeah. I think that I would have to look a little bit more closely at the previous application. Having the previous application, I think, does make it easier because we at least have something to work with, and then having kind of all these documented goals that we've accomplished, and the Complete Streets master plan and all that being pretty recent. I think all the information is kind of right at the forefront. I'd imagine that the application itself will take a decent amount of staff time and possibly some consultant assistance. So I think it'll be, I think it'll be maybe a similar amount of work to a grant application or something like that.
Thank you.
Other commissioners with questions?
Yeah, I have a few questions.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I thought the presentation was very good, Marissa. But on that one page where you listed the different cities, you listed Mountain View, Cupertino, and Palo Alto as under bronze, silver, or gold, and both San Francisco under gold. The other community that's next to us is Sunnyvale, and I didn't see their name listed there. Are they worse off than us, or are they in a different category? We just don't know.
They are not listed on the website. So it's possible that they haven't applied for any of these designations and then don't have a status.
Yeah, I think we should also ask them too, because I feel like I've seen a sign up that says bicycle friendly community, unless that's the Cupertino sign, but.
And the other part of that question with that slide is, what about platinum level? Are there no local cities or in California at all that are platinum?
I was only looking for Bay Area cities, so I'd have to revisit the website to see if there are any platinum cities.
Davis.
Davis. Sorry, what was that?
Davis is a platinum city.
Thank you.
Okay. So then another question would be is that the presentation shows the what it would take to get to silver, or the average silver. And so I'm wondering, what are the other building blocks that we would need to get to go from silver to gold to platinum? Just more of a curiosity point. I know we should go first for silver, but some of those might be pretty close between silver to gold, and I just don't know what those levels would be.
Yeah, that was another question that I reached out to the league with. Like, is it possible to skip silver and go straight to gold if we've made enough progress? And that's one of the ones that I'm still waiting to hear back on.
Okay, yeah, it'd be nice to know what those different levels are, for meeting gold or silver too, or platinum. Okay, so that's all I had, so thank you.
Commissioner Oyang, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I had a follow-up question to the one around, how much effort it would take. This probably depends on which designation we're targeting, silver or gold, but do you foresee, in addition to the actual gathering of materials, are there any other projects that you would prioritize and try to implement as part of, like, to have in motion as part of the application for the targeted designation? Or is it you're just basing it off of existing work?
So I think that, there are a few different ways that we could go about this. I think that what would make sense for September, September gives us some time to, I think, put programs in place. It maybe doesn't give us enough time to do any significant kind of, improvement plan type projects, implementation or CAPs outside of what we already kind of have planned. And so I think what would make sense would be to put together an application for September that reflects everything that we've done so far. Over the last, couple of years, we've made a lot of progress. And then the last time we were designated was 9 years ago. So even more progress since then. And at that time, if Caltrans is on schedule, the El Camino Real project might be under construction. So I think it makes sense to move forward with everything that's been done over the last 9 years, and see if that gets us to a silver status. And like I mentioned in the presentation, there is a little bit of time, I think, if not for implementation, there is time for kind of programs. And so I think if we got maybe a couple of businesses to become bike friendly businesses, I think that would get us better positioned. So I think, some of the planning of like a charity ride or more kind of bike events, or having more commission help on bike to wherever day or bike month events. I think those are the kinds of things that we really have the opportunity to strengthen. And then I think, we already have a number of additional bikeway CIPs kind of in the pipeline. And so then I think we could reapply the following year and see if that gets us up to gold if we aren't already there.
Great, thank you.
So I have two quick specific questions, and then we'll go to public comments on this item. The first one is about, they talk about, I think about speeds. And I'm wondering, when did Los Altos implement our 15-mile-an-hour school speed zone around the schools? Was that before we submitted the last application or after? And if you don't know, then it's a comment and it's like, we should check.
After,
After we submitted the last
After.
one.
Yeah, I think it was
So
after
then-
too.
Yeah, so then, sorry, it's a comment now, but I think that's something that gets added to part of our application that we've achieved as a city. And then my next question, and I know you said the league is no longer looking at enforcement, but they did give some feedback on enforcement in the packet you shared with us. And one of their feedbacks was around creating an ordinance to make it illegal to park or ride in a bike lane. So isn't that already illegal today?
I would have to look into that
Yeah.
to get the technical answer.
Yeah, so I think, please do look at that, into that. And let us know maybe as part of this process and when you bring that process back, because I thought that was already illegal. And if it is, then, let me not stray into comments. I think everybody else has been really good at sticking to questions. So I will pause there and let's open it up for public comments on this item. You can ask questions or you may make comments, but anyone from the public, feel free to raise your hand in the Zoom app, *9 on the phone if you want to speak, or just speak up and let me know if you want to speak. Is there anyone out there who would like to speak on this item? Okay, we're going to do a going once, going twice. And I am not seeing any public comments for this item. So let's close public comments, bring it back to the commission for your comments and direction to staff. Commissioner Ambiel, you are first.
Thank you. Got to find the unmute button. First of all, for full disclosure, I am an LCI. I'm a league certified cycling instructor, and I have been for over 10 years. So I am certified by the league to provide training to adults and middle school students. Secondarily, I was also a league reviewer of these applications at one point, and I rescinded that because I was on a commission. So there was a potential conflict of interest. So I did remove myself from that process. That being said, I'm very familiar with reviewing these applications. And I will say that in the last 9 years, the level of standard for each of the different designations has risen. So what used to be bronze before is no longer bronze. So if we think we're shooting for gold from 9 years ago, we're probably bronze. So as communities have done more and more, the water level has risen. So be aware that even though we've done a lot in 9 years, it's probably still bronze. So that's point one. Point two, specifically, when you're thinking about bike-friendly businesses and you want to get a compare point as to what our local businesses might have to do. Locally, we have 2 platinums, Stanford Research Park and Meta. We have 2 golds, Palo Alto Bikes and SAP. We have a couple silvers, VMware being one, and Tesla being a bronze. So if you want to know what a bike-friendly business looks like, you can review what those companies have in place. I'm a VMware employee. I helped our company get to that silver designation with a variety of infrastructure and programmatic aspects. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to me offline on that. Locally, we also have a platinum university, and that would be Stanford. So if you want to know what the best of the best looks like, those are the places to go. Now, specific to some of your recommendations, a charity ride would not get us where we need to be. A charity ride is an extraordinarily difficult thing to pull off, and there's too much competition in the market today for those types of rides. The Canary Cancer Ride that is held annually has a difficult time getting enough riders now, and that is a big ride, and it's a lot of effort, and there's a lot of liability involved. So if anything, we would join up with one that's already existing. We are better served focusing on our local community and doing local rides. Take a look at what SVBC is doing in terms of local rides. They're having a farmer's market ride next week. Meet at Crittenden School, learn how to ride to the farmer's market, learn how to pack things in your bike, and learn how to ride back. That's a better served opportunity than a charity ride. They're very challenging to do. I've done one myself, and I'll never go back. It's just too difficult. Partnering with SVBC whenever we can is a great opportunity for us, and really promoting that partnership is I think an easy win, and it's a win-win not only for us, but it's a win for SVBC as well, extending their reach, their breadth, their depth into our community, and we leaning on their organizational constructs to help build our bicycling muscle, if you will. With regards to training programs and having a commissioner do training, again, I'm going to be very firm about this. Don't do it. The liability is too great. You take on personal liability when you do those training classes. We're better served to try and encourage the Parks and Recs department to pick up some training classes and ask SVBC to conduct those classes on our behalf, and not have a commissioner put their own personal liability on the line. It's why I stopped teaching, because I realized I was at a great deal of financial and personal liability risk. So those are just some top of mind things to consider. Bronze is a good designation. Silver is too. It doesn't get you any more except a different color sign, and shows your investment in this. So the other thing is, when you get your designation, you get one sign to hang. And if you want more, you have to buy more. And if you think about all the entryways into our city, where would you hang that sign? And does it really matter at the end of the day? So really focus on what matters to our community versus, bronze, silver, or gold, right? So think about it in that way. So those are my comments for now. And anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Great feedback, Commissioner Ambiel, and you sound like an excellent resource. I didn't know you were part of the league scoring committee for these in the past, so I hope the city will take advantage of the knowledge you have. I would just add on to this is when I hear the workplaces that have these high standards for bicycle-friendly workplaces, is Marissa, maybe we need to talk with the league and explain the demographics of our city and what workplaces exist here, and what would friendly workplaces mean for our city.
That's a good comment. And do note that Palo Alto Bikes, which is a small business in Palo Alto, has got the gold designation. So you don't have to be a big company like VMware or SAP. You can be a small company like Palo Alto Bikes and still get that designation.
Yeah. And then I'm going to chime in right now too about adult education, which I think is number 20. I think Commissioner Ambiel had the idea of going through, programs through Parks and Recs, and one great option. And I think another option is the VTA has the programs through Measure B funded, which is our, we all contribute to those taxes for adult education. And we should certainly take advantage of those programs too. And so I think the question, Marisa, would be when there's a countywide program available, and Safe Ride Home is another fine example. VTA has a pilot program they've started for Safe Ride Home now. Are we able to, because our residents or people who work in the city are eligible to use those programs, are we able to count those within our application? So we don't have to have a freestanding, an independent city program for each of those things when it's available in the county. So other commissioners, Commissioner Katz.
Thank you. I was just thinking that I think that if the workload to pull the application together for staff is not considered a huge burden, Marissa, then you should pursue that. But I also think that whatever we do between now and September, the primary criteria should be, would we do that to benefit the community, number one? rather than do it to simply add to our ability to potentially move up a level. An example, I think, would be, and there might be some easy wins there. Could we partner with the Chamber of Commerce, for example, to have the Chamber of Commerce take on a program to educate businesses on what it would take for them to apply to be a bike-friendly business? Because we don't have all those large companies in Los Altos that some of the other communities do, but we have a lot of small businesses where it might be to their advantage to be able to put a sign in and say we're a bike-friendly company. So that's one example. And I also think with our new community center, we ought to take a look at who is now running the programs there. I've heard multiple people comment about the fact they'd like to see more educational programs there. And is bicycle education something that the community center might want to add to their list of adult education programs?
Thank you, Commissioner Katz. I will chime in once again too. I think that's a brilliant idea of reaching out to the chamber and asking if they can help us educate businesses. We would probably have to do the presentation, but they can, we can ask them if they can schedule something for us to reach out to businesses and, present, or just even share out information on what it takes to be a bicycle friendly business. I would also add that Greentown Los Altos would be another great organization to partner with. And I think we're already partnering with them. I think we should feature them in our application. And I do think there's more things that we can partner with them on. And I do know that they are ready and willing to do that with us, including working on the bicycle friendly businesses. And I think, Marisa, you will be hearing from them on email. They weren't able to join us this evening, but you will be hearing from someone over there, sharing their thoughts on that and their willingness to work with us a little bit more. And I know we're exploring the May Bike Friendly Month activities with them, and maybe as part of those conversations, we can explore, what else they might be interested in partnering with the city and with this commission on advancing these efforts. Commissioner Katz.
Yeah, just building on that, I think you're absolutely right. And I think if there were a presentation around that, what businesses could do, we could find other target organizations that would be equally productive to get in front of. Rotary is a perfect example, because I think that there's a very large number of members of the business community that participate in Los Altos Rotary, and you could reach all of them with one presentation. And Rotary would, I think, would be very happy to provide the time and the platform.
Great. Other commissioners? Anyone else? So I'm just looking back at my notes, and I see one thing that we haven't covered yet. Is one of the feedback things I saw in the written application in our packet from them was about Stevens Creek Trail. And they were suggesting bicycle boulevards and other things. I think people on this commission know very well about how our residents in this city feel about bringing the Stevens Creek Trail into Los Altos. With that said, Mountain View and Sunnyvale have made a lot of progress on the Stevens Creek Trail. And my understanding now, and Marisa, this should be validated with the other cities, is that they're planning to bring it up to Fremont Avenue. They're actively working on that. But my understanding, and this is the part that should be validated, is Bernardo Avenue is the target location for the Stevens Creek Trail. My understanding comes from the VTA, but we should confirm it with the city of Sunnyvale, because I think that if that's the case, then we want to let the league know that no, we are no longer the target for the Stevens Creek Trail. And I think we could then highlight the work that we have been doing, like on Fremont Avenue, and hopefully the Homestead Road Safe Routes to School project, if that ever gets funded, that would then connect people in from our city into not just the schools, but into the expansions that Sunnyvale and Mountain View have underway for the Stevens Creek Trail. And also highlighting our partnership with the county, and we'll see what they come up with as part of the active transportation plan and other things that they're working on. I think really, really great feedback from the commission. I agree with Commissioner Ambiel. And if Cupertino is a bronze, I don't think there's any way that we can be a gold, because I think the amount of things that Cupertino has added year over year in terms of biking infrastructure has been a lot of achievements. And I think we've done a lot, but I have to be honest and say, I don't see us standing out more than they are, and if they're still sitting at bronze. So just be realistic about where we want to achieve. But I think that my understanding, and Commissioner Ambiel, correct me if I'm wrong, the league is definitely willing to, kind of work on an, advancement, from 1 year or a couple years into future years, if it based upon your accomplishments.
Just be realistic.
Yeah.
I mean, Palo Alto is gold, and they spend millions of dollars on their infrastructure and have an advanced education, training, and enablement program throughout their schools and data tracking, and they're only gold.
So I forgot all of your 3 questions. I hope we've answered them, Marisa, but I think what I've heard is Commissioner Ambiel is available as a resource to, especially with her expertise, to help with strategy on our application. I am happy to participate with you and Greentown, especially since I volunteered for the Maze Bike Month activities with them, to have the conversation of how else can they participate in this. And then I would be happy to help in those efforts as well too. If there's other commissioners who want to volunteer, feel free to raise your hand now or email Marisa in terms of how you think you can pitch in and help out. And then Marisa, did we answer all your other questions that you wanted answered? I appreciate you put them. We did.
Yes,
Great.
you did. Thank you.
I appreciate that you put those on the slide, because it really helps everybody focus. So if there is nothing else, I'm going to close this item. I'm not hearing anything else, so let's close this item out and let us move on to item number 6, which is the truck routes program. And I know we've heard about this, I think a couple of years ago when we were exploring Cuesta, and we were hearing from residents about the trucks coming in from Mountain View on some of our streets that weren't truck routes. And I know there was a promise to do some review of our truck routes. So it looks like that is now coming to us, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Marisa, and I see Jaime is on here too. Maybe he's here for this item.
Exactly, yes. This will be presented by Jaime Rodriguez, our consultant. And I also just want to mention that we have received some emails from the community on this topic, and just want to say that we have received them all, we've read them all, and Jaime will be presenting just kind of the alternatives here, and we can discuss. And if you want to share feedback again at this presentation, you're welcome to. And we are still developing this program, and so flexible to input. So Jaime, I'll hand it to you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
that's great. And
hi, everybody.
Jaime, I'm going to jump in first and just, I think there's some people from the public who may have joined us since our last item. The process here is we'll have Jaime and staff give us a presentation. Then we may have commissioners ask questions, or we'll go straight to public comment, but the public will get an opportunity, a couple minutes each, to speak and give your feedback or questions on this item. And then we'll come back to the commissioners, who can then give direction and feedback and comments to staff. So sorry to interrupt there, Jaime, but the floor is yours now.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. I'm going to just very quickly share my screen. So give me 1 second while I get ready. And I don't have screen share capabilities, so I'm not sure if I have to get upgraded or something. Is that something that
Let me look into it.
If not, you can share screen, Marisa. There's just a few slides that would work too, and I can just prompt you to switch.
I think it should be fixed now. Give it a try.
Okay, yeah, I have it there. Great. Awesome. Okay. All right, let me just run the slideshow here. Can I get a quick confirmation that everyone can see my screen?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
All right, great. Yeah, so Chair, you started the background for us, but as a recap for people that maybe joined the meeting after you had started speaking and for the rest of the commission, we've had an evaluation of the Los Altos truck route network on the commission's work plan for a couple of years, and that did stem initially based off of work that the commission was doing as part of the traffic calming program on Cuesta Drive. As a little bit historical background, we had a historical problem with Safeway in Mountain View, truckers still dropping off in Mountain View off of Miramonte and Cuesta, and then they would drive north of Cuesta, past Springer, through Cuesta in Los Altos into downtown to do deliveries to the Safeway off of First Street in downtown Los Altos. And so our police department has always done a wonderful job of enforcing that, but that was something that we heard from a lot of residents, that there was a lot of concerns about truck routes. So we historically, as part of that, had said we'd go back and do this evaluation to figure out, well, one is what are the formal truck routes in Los Altos, and what are those kind of used for? That's specifically to deliver goods for businesses that are delivered back into the community, specifically that Safeway example. And so what we wanted to do here is look at, well, what is our existing truck routes within the city? There's only 3. That is all of El Camino Real, which is an extension of the truck routes in Palo Alto to the north and Mountain View to the south. Foothill Expressway, which again is an extension of a truck route on Foothill Expressway, to the north in Palo Alto for delivery of goods into the Stanford Research Park, and south of us into Cupertino on Foothill Expressway or Foothill Boulevard. And then the only formal city street in Los Altos that's designated as a limited city truck route strictly for the delivery of goods is San Antonio Road. So I have this all on the map that I'll show you in a bit, but I'm just trying to give you the verbal background for now. And so those are our formal truck routes. And then we also wanted to see, well, where are there restrictions where we want to prohibit or limit truck access within the city? And we did that research for you as well. So if anybody is interested in diving into this a little bit more, if you just jump online and do a quick Google search for Los Altos Municipal Code truck routes, you'll very quickly get pointed to chapter 8.16 of the Muni Code for Los Altos. And there's a lot more information regarding truck routes in there. But truck routes, very similar to most of our neighboring cities, define trucks as vehicles that exceed a weight limit of 3 tons. So those are those larger semi trucks that are delivering large quantities of goods to multiple stores along a route. And so they need those big trailers behind them to be able to carry lots of goods for delivery between sites. San Antonio, again, within that Muni Code section, defines San Antonio Road as that limited truck route. And that it also notes that any truck can deliver goods to any location in the city and deviate off of the formal or limited truck route. So a really good example of that is, say, Lucky's off of Grant Road. So Grant Road itself isn't a truck route, but if the truck is on Foothill Expressway, they can very quickly just deviate, make a right turn or left turn into Lucky's off of Grant Road across from Arboretum, and they can do the same thing to get to Foothill Crossings off of Homestead. And so there's nothing that limits a trucker from deviating off of those routes to get anywhere in town where they need to make deliveries. And it's the same thing for a trucker, say, delivering sod to a residential neighborhood to deliver a big load of sod for a landscape project. The Muni Code also, though, does identify streets that are restricted truck routes. And there's technically only 2 today documented within the Muni Code: Jordan Avenue and East Portola. So what we did in preparation of this meeting is we just kind of spent a day surveying the city, because we wanted to figure out, well, if we've only got 2 official restrictions, Jordan and Portola, where else do we have restrictions? We want to document those for you. And so I'm hoping that you can see my screen here. It looks a little small on my screen because I'm at a library today. But the red circles here are where there are existing restrictions. So if you're truckers on El Camino, they see a restriction after, I believe it's Carl's Jr., saying that they cannot enter onto Jordan Avenue beyond a certain point. Same thing at El Monte off Foothill Expressways. There's a sign there that says no vehicles over 3-ton limit. And we installed some historically at Cuesta when we were doing all the traffic calming program work there about 2 years ago. So there's several locations that are signed as restrictions for truck routes, but they're not in the Muni Code. So what we did was we mapped the green routes where truck routes are allowed, both by Los Altos and our neighboring cities. That includes El Camino Real, Foothill Expressway, Foothill Boulevard into Cupertino. And also, it might be off my screen here, also that includes Homestead Road to the west through Cupertino and Sunnyvale. And so those are existing routes from our neighboring agencies. And so we looked at that network. We documented in brown all of the retail shopping districts within the city and our adjacent neighbors. So kind of up here off of El Camino Real, San Antonio, all of El Camino Real, the downtown Los Altos area. We got, I'm trying to blank on the name of our shopping district, Loyola Corners. And we've got the shopping center off of San Antonio and Springer, as well as Lucky's, and again, Homestead Crossings down, or Fiddle Crossings down off of Homestead. And so when we look at the existing network, we use that as an opportunity to figure out, well, one, should we look at additional routes? And that's what we proposed in purple. I do want to make a note, we don't have to add any more routes. We made this effort of saying, where is the major shopping district? How can people access that? And so what we thought was, maybe it made sense to look at introducing El Monte Avenue between 280 and Foothill as an option so that we can get truckers off of Foothill Expressway and keep them on the freeway for as long as possible to get them kind of then off of this section of El Monte. That was something that we thought might be something that the commission, the city would want to consider. We also looked at if there is an extension of a truck route in southern Los Altos and Cupertino and Sunnyvale off of Homestead Road, does it make sense for us to consider an extension of Homestead Road to the south for our own community? I think that might be at odds with a lot of interest from the community, and I know there's been a lot of public input that was received coming up to this meeting that Homestead Road for Los Altos is a prominent suggested route to school for Cupertino Middle and Homestead High, and we have a lot of students in that area. So I do want to take a moment to just recognize that public input that we've received and make sure that people know that that's why we're having this meeting tonight. If that's something that we don't want to do as a community, that's completely okay. That's why we're bringing this item to the commission for a discussion. And even if we don't want to make it a formal truck route, again, truckers can still deliver to Trader Joe's and the shopping center, and they can continue through onto the adjacent routes in the neighboring cities, but we don't have to formalize that route for Los Altos if we don't want to try and protect that safe routes to school. So with that, we also then said, okay, if we got some potential additional routes to add, again, Homestead to the south and El Monte kind of to the northwest of the city, do we want to take advantage of this opportunity to formally restrict truck entries into the cities at other points that don't exist today? And so that we did that, and that's what's shown here in the purple slashes on the map. So for example, Los Altos Avenue doesn't have any truck restrictions coming off of El Camino to the north, nor does it have truck restrictions north of the downtown off of Edith. So we thought that might be something that makes sense. We know there's an existing truck restriction just past Carl's Jr. at Jordan, but we don't have anything off of Jordan, if a trucker is say leaving downtown, so we thought we might want to protect that interest as well. We have existing truck restrictions signage on Springer near El Monte, but we don't have any on El Monte itself. And so that was something that we thought might make sense. And just as a note, again, we do have truck restrictions on El Monte at Foothill Expressway. We have some existing restrictions at Edith Avenue at Cuesta. We actually were thinking about potentially adding in Arboretum, which is the street just to the south of Cuesta Drive. We also wanted to reiterate that we still think we need better truck restrictions in the city of Mountain View, north of their Safeway. And so we put this in here, even though we don't have any jurisdiction, to maybe see if there would be interest from the commission in writing a letter to Mountain View to reiterate that we're looking for their help to kind of get some restrictions to keep truckers off of Cuesta Road or Cuesta Drive north of their Safeway, to avoid them entering into Los Altos altogether. We also looked at introducing some truck restrictions on Grant Road. So we do have restrictions on Grant Road past what I'm going to call the Grant Road frontage road that parallels Foothill Expressway, but Grant Road frontage road itself is not restricted. And so we thought that might make sense to make sure that as truckers are leaving, say Trader Joe's, maybe going up towards Safeway, that they're not using Grant Road as that route. And so those are the sites that we surveyed. And then we also looked at, well, how should we restrict trucks? The signs that we use today in the city are only text messages. They say commercial vehicles over 3 tons prohibited. And we saw that a lot of the signs that are actually out today are covered by trees. They're not in really good locations that optimize visibility. They're, say, too far off of Foothill Expressway onto one of the streets like Grant Road. They're almost a block away. So we would want to go through a whole signage program and pull all those signs close to Foothill Expressway, maybe do a partnership encouragement program with the county to let us kind of move some of those truck route restriction signs a little closer to the expressway to make it really clear that the trucks cannot get off of the expressway to enter the community, with the exception of specific gateway entry points like the downtown area. And then change potentially these signs or add, in addition to the existing signs, more of an international accepted truck restriction signs like the signs that's shown here at the bottom. So that's what we're proposing today as potential new truck routes. El Monte from 280 roughly to Foothill Expressway. Homestead Road as an option, only because of that existing truck route connection in Cupertino and Sunnyvale. But that's something that we have heard from several members of the community that there are a lot of concerns with that, and then interest in, again, adding and officially documenting truck route restrictions within the Muni Code and expanding the truck route restriction signage within the community if those routes were to be added into the Muni Code. So tonight to kind of provide input as a commission on what we've presented to you here tonight, invite the public to give their thoughts on our recommendations. And then if there are any modifications that you're looking to do to potentially add in one of the truck routes that we recommended, or to add into the Muni Code formal truck route restrictions on streets, that does require a municipal code amendment that gets approved by city council. So that would be 2 hearings at the city council, one to allow a public comment period and a discussion at the city council level, followed by a second hearing that is done as a consent item. So it will be something that takes place at council over a 1-month period. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, and I'll stop share.
Thank you very much for this presentation, and also for recognizing the public comments that we've received in writing so far. I appreciate what was said about that you've read them all already. So let's start with commissioner questions. Do any commissioners have questions? Commissioner Ambiel.
Do we have any data that shows what the volume of truck traffic is on the existing routes and the priority times in which they travel? Is it primarily during the commute hours? Is it predominantly afternoon, or is it all over the map? And final question is, and is there a way that we can restrict when trucks are permitted to move on those streets, especially as you consider cyclists? Could we say, sure, you can drive your truck on this road, but only between 10 and 1 o'clock, so that we can be assured that school children are safely tucked into their chairs? Thank you.
Jaime, you must be on mute.
Sorry, it's like, I'm gonna do that like several times tonight. I'm sure of it. I'll try and answer all those questions for you. So when it comes to us having the ability to restrict when a truck is allowed to enter the city, we really don't have that flexibility. A trucker can enter a city at any time along a formal route, and that's really just going to be based strictly off of their own specific needs. We do have data regarding kind of amount of trucks. I didn't map that for you tonight. If that's something that you think would be of really interest, if we move forward a policy recommendation, we'll put that together for the city council to see in their presentation on this item. But the thing I forgot to mention is that if a trucker needs to formally deviate off of those routes, if they know they're going to make a path through one of the city streets, like let's say Springer Road, any trucking company can go to the police department and pull a truck permit, to give them temporary access to kind of get onto a route. And that is something that even the truckers would say, we're going to give ourselves a range of a day from like say 8 to 5 that we need to move certain vehicles through that area. And so we don't have a lot of flexibility in restricting times of day, but we do have a ton of historical data on vehicle volumes and truck volumes throughout the city. I just didn't map that for you tonight.
Other questions, Commissioner Ambiel? Commissioner Katz?
Yeah, I have 3 questions, Jaime. At least I think there are 3. One is that, is there any data that shows what the effectiveness is of the signage? So for example, if you choose to restrict a certain road from the heavier trucks, how effective are those signs in actually accomplishing that objective? If you choose, on the other hand, to make a road a limited truck approved thoroughfare, how does that really divert traffic to that road? So those 2 halves of the same question. And then the last question is, once you make those changes and the signage goes up, if a trucker is looking at something like Google Maps or Apple Maps, do they know in advance where they are allowed to go and where they're not allowed to go?
Sure. Thank you. I'll try and answer all those. If I miss anything, please just slide me back. On the latter question first, since that's the one that's on top of my mind. So a lot of the trucking companies do use private firms that map all of the truck routes that are approved within different communities throughout the country. And so truckers do typically know what routes they are allowed to use. So, truckers have on truck route maps for the region, Foothill Expressway, San Antonio, and El Monte through our community. And so that information is readily available. I've done a few programs now in different cities where we do truck restriction signage. Putting in the right signage does do a very good job of deviating trucks off of specific streets. So that's the signage that we're recommending, where you use the international truck with the red slash through it. That's very clear. What's key though is where making sure that the sign is placed at a visible location. And so for us, even though we have the legally required, hey, no vehicles over 3 tons, those are great. And our police department can cite if they see trucks over that weight limit on these specific streets, but they don't really demand a lot of attention. Truckers got a lot of things going on in their trucks. They're rushed to get to delivery sites, and it's really easy to miss those sites. It's a lot harder to miss the international restriction signs. And so I'm a really big fan of them. I think for us, our biggest struggle had always been Cuesta. And now we did put up a couple of sign restrictions on Cuesta, but it's hard to say that signage restriction alone did what what was needed to move the trucks, because, we also had the speed tables that were installed, that alone was a discouragement for the truckers to stay on Cuesta itself. So ever since the traffic calming program went in, I think I heard maybe 1 or 2 complaints after the project started, where there were still a couple of trucks. I haven't heard any complaints in over a year, but that's just me. Marisa might have a different insight on that. And so the flip side there is, truckers look for restrictions. If they don't see a restriction, they think they can be on that street. And again, hey, these people, they're just doing their job. They're trying to get a good to a location. If the sign restriction is there, they typically won't take the risk, because the fines can be relatively hefty. And then those are things that are impacted by the trucking company's fees they have to pay. So a good signed truck restriction program, I think, is really important for any community. And I think for us in Los Altos, there's areas where we have gaps. I think just might make sense. Los Altos Avenue, I'm actually surprised we haven't had complaints in the past, because that actually is the fastest route if you're coming from Palo Alto trying to get to downtown Los Altos. So I've never heard a complaint, but it just makes sense to me that be restricted. Same thing with the flip side of Jordan Avenue. We got restrictions on one side, but not the other. And I would say, let's put the restriction sign before Carl's Jr., not after Carl's Jr., because then the trucks already entered into the community. So a lot of cleanup work that isn't very difficult to do. It's just a matter of taking the time to kind of put the program together and implement it and build it.
Thank you, Jaime. And what I'll also add for Commissioner Katz is what we also know that the residents of Cuesta did, particularly before the traffic calming program was in place, is when they had trucks coming through, because the trucks were not supposed to be there, they were able to call the police department, who was able to perform enforcement for them. I think deterrence, well, I shouldn't state my opinion. I think Jaime has discussed deterrence and the value of that. But by also having a restriction, there is an enforcement potential, particularly when there's a problem that residents want to bring to the city's attention. Other commissioner questions?
I did want to know, Stacy, before I forget, we did reach out locally here to the police department to get their thoughts on what is being proposed for you here tonight. So they're the enforcement arm of the city. They historically have been out there kind of, stopping truckers and issuing citations and issuing permits. And so what you're seeing here tonight was run by the police department to get their insight.
Thanks for letting us know that, Jaime, and doing that. Checking and getting their input. Commissioner Snyder, questions?
Yeah, you here. So you talked about 3-ton limit. There's a lot of pickups that are quite close to that weight or over that weight anyway, 6,000 pounds. So can I assume that the 3,000 limit is on the payload and not the vehicle itself?
My understanding, it is the whole vehicle, the vehicle and any load.
So almost any pickup truck, or if it's a decent sized one, is putting payload in, it's going to be over that 3-ton limit.
That's right.
And when you say the police need a permit for it, how is it enforced? And I mean, is it just they look at it? I mean, typically you see on the interstate, there's, truck stops that are, they have to do a little scale when they pull off. I'm assuming we don't have any scales in town.
Not to my knowledge, we do not know. And so the enforcement is targeted. The police department really is looking for those larger semi trucks. The Cisco deliveries, running between different shopping centers and commercial districts and grocery stores, dropping off goods. They're looking for those larger semi truck, multi-axle vehicles.
Okay. Do we have any data on how many violations or how many permits were issued?
I don't have that data, but again, if we move anything forward, we're taking notes tonight, so we'll gather that information from PD for a city council presentation.
Because, I'm not sure how well that's enforced. You can, if you actually get a permit to do construction on your house, that may lead to like truckers coming over delivering, like you said, sod for irrigation or landscaping. or whatever else that they do, materials for concrete. There's a lot of construction work going off or has been going on to the Mountain View High School as the trucks go through, but as a public, I don't know there's any way you can look and see that a truck has a permit, or that driver has a permit for that, the trucking company does.
You know, I know for a fact when a lot of commercial, like construction is going on, that those permits are issued. I don't know if the high school down in Mountain View specifically was issued one through Los Altos, to say beyond our streets, but I know those permits are issued.
Well, they do go through our streets.
Yeah,
They very specifically go through our streets to get there. But it wasn't so much just that, it was, there's, as a public, like if you see a vehicle go down Cuesta, can you go like, oh, call the police and say, is that truck, have a permit? What do you get, a license plate or a picture, or how is that enforced?
oh, well, so pre-traffic calming on Cuesta, I actually saw the police department in action. They actually just parked previously at Cuesta and Campbell, and I saw them pull several trucks over in the mornings, running between the two Safeways. I saw several trucks get citations. I haven't seen that again so much of an issue. I think part of it is the traffic calming program that was implemented. I think part of it was the truck.
Right, I was just using that as an example. I mean, any of the streets are going to have, any street can have construction. So if it's okay for a truck to deliver, supplies, landscaping or anything, and not have to pay attention to that street sign that's restricted, does it really do any good to put those signs up?
No, I definitely think that it does. Now, again, when someone's making deliveries, a larger truck, and maybe I think the better example is like a truck that's coming in and dropping off roofing materials for a construction job. Those are the guys pull permits. They know they have to. They pull them regularly, and so the police department expects those trucks to be there, and so. The permit program is in place in Los Altos and in all cities to accommodate those additional trips, and those permits do have a fee, and the city collects that fee and uses it for street improvements within Los Altos. And so that impact of those trucks driving on our streets and wear and tear, the permit programs are there to make sure that we can maintain those streets after.
Okay. Are there exemptions for like buses, like the VTA buses or school buses?
Not documented within our Muni code, but I don't know the weight of a typical bus, but I would imagine it's over 3 tons.
It's easily going to be over if you get a pickup truck over that.
Yeah. A really good example is actually the cement trucks. So if you ever been behind or near a cement truck on the road, when the cement's fully loaded, there's a third axle that's at the back of the truck that comes down to distribute the load. That's what causes wear and tear on the roadway. So that extra axle distributes the weight of the truck. Actually, garbage trucks have those as well, and so those are all accommodations that the city makes, but there's, usually our pavement design guidelines are intended to accommodate a typical load from garbage trucks and kind of buses. It's those large trucks, semis, that cause significant wear and tear.
Well, because the waste management trucks are going to be even empty, and they're going to be on every single street in the city. So I would think that there's either an exemption or an annual permit given to them.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'll research that. I know it's not in the Muni code because I read that.
Okay, because it'd be the same thing to me to the VTA, the bus lines go through the city, plus also any school buses going from any of the schools to another school or wherever they're going. So I'm just kind of curious as to how that all works. So, all right, thank you.
Commissioner Ouyang, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I was curious for the roads that we designate for truckers. So we have a few existing and there's a couple proposed with all the with the other mechanisms that are there for permits and also where we say where we're blocking streets from trucks, what's the, I guess, what more does designating those roads do? Like, does that actually encourage more trucks to use it, or like help them identify the routes we want them to use, or what is the value of doing that or
Well,
not doing that?
Yeah, and I think the best example to answer that question would be that's one of the reasons why we recommended El Monte Avenue between the 280 element or the city limit back to Foothill Expressway, because today that isn't an identified route. I don't think necessarily truckers aren't using that because we're not officially designating it, but a trucker that wants to come into Los Altos knows they can exit Foothill Expressway down at the southern entry point off of 280 and then drive all the way up. So all up Foothill Expressway, we'd expect to see trucks, and we do see trucks regularly, traveling up that roadway. But by designating El Monte officially, the thought there was we can encourage trucks to stay on 280 if they're coming from the San Jose area, Cupertino area, and then actually if trying to get to downtown, just exit off at El Monte. So we see less wear and tear on the roadways. We see less noise on Foothill Expressway from large trucks, and we get them faster to their destination, which is going to be downtown Los Altos.
Got it. Okay, and then a second question, just because we're talking about trucks as kind of outsiders, but they do support all of the businesses that support Los Altos. So I was wondering, have we planned to, or have we already talked to any truckers about their getting in and out of Los Altos?
No, we have not done that.
Any other
Okay.
questions, Commissioner Huyang?
No, that was it.
Okay, thank you. So I have two quick questions, and then we are going to go to public comments. So members of the public may start raising their hand in the Zoom app. And then after we do public comments, then we'll come back to the commission, and this is where you'll hear our input for city staff. And definitely after we've heard your feedback. So my two questions are, number one, Jaime, continuing on your proposed route on El Monte for truckers to go between Foothill Expressway and 280, explain to me who all has jurisdictions on El Monte between Foothill Expressway and 280. Specifically, there's the city of Los Altos, but is there also Los Altos Hills, or is there unincorporated county Los Altos addresses? What I'm trying to do is ask, are we the only people that have to approve a truck route for that, and then it becomes a truck route, or are there other jurisdictions along that stretch that would also have to approve it as a truck route if they haven't already done so, so it could actually become the connection you're talking about? You're on mute again.
Okay, thank you so much for reminding me. Yeah, so if we were to approve El Monte for the portion where our western city limits are, and I'm drawing a blank at the name of the traffic signal where I think our city border ends, but just before 280, Summerhill Road. And so if we were to designate that as a route, Los Altos Hills or the county, whoever it is that is the operating jurisdiction from right at the off-ramp of 280 to the pickup point of the Los Altos point near Summerhill, they don't need to take any action on their side. Just like we don't need to take any action if we chose not to tonight to make Homestead Road a truck route. Homestead Road through Cupertino and Sunnyvale is an approved truck route. We don't need to designate our portion if we don't think that we need to, but truckers can still get through Homestead Road on our city to get to the truck route on Homestead Road in Cupertino and Sunnyvale. The same thing would happen with the El Monte example. If we formalize the truck route on El Monte between Summerhill to Foothill Expressway, there is no requirement for Los Altos Hills or the county to do so on the other small portion between Summerhill to 280, because they're getting to an official truck route, in the shortest route possible, which would be the off-ramp at 280 to Summerhill Road.
Okay. And then just for the record, when you come off of 85 today onto Homestead Road, there is a sign there that kind of, I think it doesn't allow you to do it for trucks to do a right turn onto Homestead. So I think it is recognized by our neighboring jurisdictions that we don't have a truck route on there today. And it's worth checking out.
Yeah,
But
I'll
I
double
think,
check that if I
I
missed
think
this.
the essence of my question really is if we're proposing a truck route on El Monte, should we be talking to the other jurisdictions along there and be asking them to do the same thing? So the whole thing is really a truck route if that's what we think, and we get their input and see if they agree to that too, versus just us putting it up.
It definitely wouldn't hurt to let them know what we're thinking of doing. And I think before we went to the city council, that would be a good suggestion, to reach out to Los Altos Hills or the county to let them know what we're thinking of doing. And again, even if we have a truck restriction on sign in place, if it's the shortest delivery point to a shop where deliveries need to be delivered, the trucker can still go on that route.
Yeah, but it's not part of the mapping of what you shared. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's available to the truckers
Yeah.
as they plan their routes. So my last question is, can you talk me and everyone for that matter a little bit more through how did Jordan Avenue and East Portola qualify for the restrictions they have? Do we know the history of this and why they got on there? And do we know, and walk us through a little bit again, what exactly does that mean?
Sure. Yeah. So within the existing municipal code, there are streets where truck access is restricted. I don't know the background as to how or why we only have 2 streets on that list today in Los Altos. And again, that's Jordan Avenue and East Portola. And I found that odd myself, but those are the only official restriction routes in the Muni Code, but there's a whole slew of sign restrictions out in the field, right? And so that's what we tried to document for you in the map. And so we just focused in on what makes sense, what else makes sense to restrict, even if we don't have problems. Let's just never have a problem and make sure we have the right signs in place so that there is no question on the enforcement. Because at the end of the day, it's anybody can fight any citation, and if there's no restriction, technically, a trucker wouldn't be wrong, to turn right off of El Camino onto Los Altos to get to First Street, unless the restriction is in place.
Okay, thank you for answering the questions. So let's open up public comments. Anyone from the public who'd like to make a comment, you may now raise your hand in the Zoom app. If you're on the phone, you can push *9. And then I'm going to call on people from whoever, I guess, has their hand raised first that I see. And I think what we should do is, given the time and the time we had designated for this item, I'm going to ask our speakers to speak in 2 minutes. And I will be timing you. We don't have a visible timer, but you might want to time yourself too. I will let you know when your time is done. So let us start with Betsy. Betsy, you may unmute your mic, and then you have 2 minutes to share your questions or your thoughts with us. And I forgot to announce this earlier tonight. It's your choice if you want to turn your video on while you speak, but you're certainly not required to.
Thank you. Today is not a day for video. I'd like to ask that you please do not turn Homestead Road between Foothill and 85 into a truck route. There are at least 14 cross streets, driveways, business entrances on that stretch of road. And that's not even including the crazy intersection at Foothill, Homestead, Vineyard, and Grant. While cars and bikes are going on Homestead, there are many cars, bikes, and pedestrians crossing Homestead to either directly cross or turn on or off. There's no constant speed on that road because of all the stopping and starting. Many students bike on this route as they head to and from West Valley Elementary, Cupertino Middle, and Homestead High School. Those kids are already dodging hazards from those 14 intersections that I mentioned before. My student actually stopped riding his bike to school because it was too stressful. Saying that it's an extension of the truck route on the other side of 85 doesn't make much sense because Homestead on the other side is 4 lanes, where it's only 2 lanes in Los Altos. Deliveries to the shopping center at Homestead and Foothill are done at the back of the stores. The access to the back of the stores is off Foothill. If a truck on Homestead needs to make a delivery there, it will need to turn left onto Foothill, then go up Foothill until it can make a safe U-turn and then come back into the shopping center. That doesn't make much sense. Adding Homestead Road as a truck route would be a small shortcut. Why can't the trucks just go to 85 and 280 and then exit Foothill? That seems safer for everyone involved. Please vote against turning Homestead into a truck route. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment, Betsy. The next speaker is Maya Bronicky.
Thank you for letting me speak today. I'm a parent of 4 kids, so I have been traveling that route to CMS and Homestead every day in the past 10 years, and I have 3 more years to do that. It gets worse and worse and worse. And now you want to add trucks. Even if that will make somebody's life a little easier, that one student who will get hurt on the way is not worth it. It's every day I see near misses. Every day I thank God when I get home without hurting anyone, because it's just a disaster. And I know that I have been advocating for that route for many years with many other parents because we are concerned. And I'm sorry, trucks just don't belong there. If they don't have to be there, they shouldn't be there. As simple as that. As part of the parent community, I want to raise a huge concern. It's Los Altos. We are Los Altos residents, but we are already being sent away to have our kids in Cupertino and Sunnyvale schools. So make sure that our kids are safe there. And I don't want to hear that the city of Los Altos is adding more traffic without adding safety measurements, at least to protect our children. If the Homestead Corridor would have been a project that is rolling, that would have provided some support for our children, then maybe we could have spoke about it today. But this is not even in the works. There is no funding for that. If the city wants to find solutions, the city needs to also find solutions to protect our children. The other thing I just wanted to mention is that I believe that the president of the board of FUHSD just sent an email of support to Ms. Lee. And maybe that should also be considered. And I believe that both Homestead High School and Fremont Union High School District will have something to add to this. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Maya, and thank you for your advocacy. Next, Danielle and Matt. And if you have 2 speakers there, you both can have 2 minutes, or you can just share your 2 minutes, whatever you prefer.
We'll just share.
We'll share. So we'll limit it to 2 minutes. Hey, I just want to say, first off, I support making it easier for commerce, including movement of goods by truck. My father-in-law was a long haul trucker for a number of years, so I'm not opposed to trucks. But I have to echo what Betsy and Maya said. It just astounds me that Homestead was even considered for this. I don't know. I just don't understand how this could even be on a list. Hundreds of kids riding to Cupertino Middle and Homestead High School every day. And as has been echoed before, it is a single lane as it goes through Los Altos, where it's a 2-lane through Sunnyvale and Cupertino. But even still, Sunnyvale saw that as such an important area that right at Mary and Homestead that they made it a pedestrian scramble, because there are so many pedestrians going through there. So again, just to add more trucks and to try to match up what Cupertino was doing, who I don't think has done a great job with their safe routes to school. And I hate to just keep focusing on school, but Cupertino has had fatalities of kids. And so let's not just try to match what they do. So and bring that up. And I don't want to have that same kind of statistic. And there's very, very easy access from 85. Well, again, I'm not a trucker, but looking at the route that trucks can take from 85 and 280 and 280 paralleling Homestead, I see no reason for trucks to take Homestead unless they're trying to avoid the backup on 280 during rush hour.
CPT.
Okay.
So anyway, so I may have gone to my 2 minutes, but appreciate it.
You didn't actually go over your 2 minutes. And for people who aren't speaking right now, if you could just put your mics on mute, that would be greatly appreciated. So thank you for your comments tonight, Matt. Next speaker is Single.
Hi there. Sorry, it just says Single, but my name is Dave Single, and I live in the Miramont, Montclair area. 2 kids, Homestead, Cupertino. That's I would echo everything that Maya said and Betsy and everyone else. This is really bad idea. It's very dangerous. I've seen near accidents. I'm shocked as I see the kids just fly into directly out of Cupertino Middle School. They fly into my lane. The kind of boisterous kind of kid, I don't want to say boy, but it's kind of a boy thing, driving his bicycle right into the lane by the gas station. And sometimes I'm just shocked that the kids are so careless, but there will be an accident, and trucks are known to hit people on bicycle. There were incidents in Palo Alto where this has happened. Even the same truck driver hit and killed 2 bicyclists in over a period of years, and didn't have any penalties to the truck driver. Not that I'm not insinuating anything by that, just saying it's known that this will happen. Please do not do this. As someone else said, it doesn't make any sense that this section of Los Altos, the kids are going pretty far away through a very narrow corridor, the only corridor to get to those schools in Cupertino Middle School and Homestead, but that's what it is, and that's not changing. We know you can't easily change this district boundaries. Please be courteous. I know, and I'm almost done. I've talked to other parents, we carpool. They don't want their kids bicycling as it is. You know, and I sort of said, well, I'll train the kids how to go and ride safely there. And it's not that safe. It's not safe. Kids ride on the other side of the street because it's not safe down by Trader Joe's or on the opposite side. How can we talk about when it's already impacted? How can we even think about making it worse? That's my comment. Thank you for considering.
Thank you for making your comment this evening. Next is Christine. Christine, you can go ahead. You have 2 minutes. Christine, you can unmute your mic.
Oh, sorry about that. Thanks, Stacy, and thanks, folks, for giving me the time. I have 3 kids that will eventually feed into Homestead High. They don't yet, but hearing about the idea of opening up Homestead as a truck route, one point that I do want to make, and it's really the single point, because I echo all the emphasis on safe routes and making and keeping our kids' safety a high priority above all else. Not to say that we don't support commerce, but the main point I want to make regarding the Homestead section is that my understanding is if a truck needs to deliver something along Homestead, they can get on Homestead. So it's not that they cannot access Homestead, and making the Homestead a truck route is the intent is not to give them access to delivery points, but actually as a throughway to another point of delivery. So I think it's I would urge the committee to reconsider this and put it on the back burner, if not kill it altogether, mainly because there is a way for the trucks to get to delivery points on Homestead if they have a delivery there, and that putting Homestead as a route to other points of delivery would congest that area and make that route unsafe for children that we want to bike to school and we want them to walk to school safely, because less cars on the road during those times is also what we want for our city. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment this evening. Any other members of the public have comments? You can raise your hand, press star 9 on your phone, or just speak up and let me know that you have a comment. Otherwise, we are going to wrap up public comments on this item. I appreciate everyone from the community who's attended tonight, who spoke up and give us public feedback, who's emailed in their feedback as well. This commission and city staff benefit from the feedback that you share with us. And now let's turn it back to the commission. And which commissioner would like to go first on this item? Oh, sorry, do we have one more public comment before we come to the commissioners? I think I missed the hands. We have a couple of people who didn't lower their hands and I missed the hand that's up. So I'm gonna go to Tanya Del Vecchio. Tanya, you have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I just want to echo what all the other parents have already said. Safety for our children should be #1 priority. And I urge anyone that's going to be making a decision about making Homestead Road a truck route to drive that route when schools are out, when Cupertino Middle School is out, or when Homestead gets out, you'll see just how many children use that road to bike. And as a driver of that road, you know, drivers, we know to be cautious. We know that the kids are going to hop that curb at that gas station at Cupertino Middle. You know, oftentimes I roll my window down and tell them that, you know, I'm going to text their mom. And so that will get them back in the bike lane. But even if I don't know their mom, that always works. But but I just can't even fathom turning that route into a truck route. I mean, if you just drive that road just once before you make any decisions about that road, do it during the time that school is left out, and you'll just see a flurry of kids. You can't even imagine how many kids use that road. So that's just my comment. So before any decisions are made, please drive that road and see that there's so many kids, and we just want to keep our kids safe in this neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment this evening, Tanya. I think I'm going to try that new trick is tell the kids who I don't even know or
It
don't
works.
know their moms.
They
Great.
jump the curb, they're not wearing their helmet, or they're
Great.
riding without their handlebars. Just tell me you know their mom, you're going to text them, and they'll
Yep.
get them every time.
Thank you. I did see boys this morning riding side by side on Homestead, which on the way to school, which pushes some of them in the traffic lane. And I was planning to text their parents this evening as well too. Yes. So let's now close public comments and let's move back to commission deliberation. And sorry, did I have a volunteer from the commission who was willing to go first on this item? And I'm not sure I have everybody's video in the same screen here. So if anybody would like to go first, we've relied on Commissioner Ambiel to go first for everything else. So Commissioner Katz.
Thank you. Let me unmute myself. I'm challenged right now in trying to get my mind around what you're asking us to do, Jaime and Marissa. And my biggest challenge is that the one thing that is totally missing from the presentation is any data. I don't know, I haven't been presented with any information as to how many trucks would be diverted or from where they'd be diverted. I haven't been presented with any information as to how many trucks are currently traveling on the roads that we're going to restrict from traveling on. And so everything, while it sounds interesting to me in terms of logic, I really don't understand what the implications will be should we go forward with the proposal. And I'm having a very hard time with that. I also don't see anything but a marginal value from turning either El Monte or Homestead into a recommended truck route. I believe that a trucker today has the ability to use those roads if they so choose to use it. There isn't any restriction on them. And I haven't heard anything about any businesses complaining about the current ways that they're getting to where they have to go are problematic. So my request would be, before I would vote on this affirmatively, to actually get some data. A perfect example being Los Altos Avenue, which logically, because it's a safe route to schools for at least 3 or 4 different schools, would make sense to constrain truck traffic. but I don't know how much truck traffic there really is to constrain. So it would be great to understand what we are trying to accomplish in numerical terms.
Jaime, you're welcome to chime into our conversation at any point, and then I will also ask after that any other commissioners who want to go next.
Sure. If I can just really quickly, can you still hear me, by the way? I switched to
Yes.
my, okay,
Yes.
cool. First of all, I just want to thank all the speakers that chimed in. Even though Homestead Road, I just want to address that issue, might not seem like a logical route. There's actually a lot of value in documenting in this commission discussion that the community does not want Homestead Road to be a truck route. So the discussion here, just like we asked about Portola earlier and Jordan, like why are those restrictions? We don't have any history documented as to why that's the case. We're going to be documenting history tonight to say we never want Homestead as a truck route if that's what we so choose as a commission in the community, and that's okay. Regarding the data for the truck routes, you know, we don't have a lot of data on some of these other streets, but we just felt that there was not consistency between what's in the municipal code versus what's in the field regarding restrictions. Even if we focused our action tonight or discussion of focusing more around where do you just want to restrict trucks, if you want to add Homestead Road to that list, that's completely okay. But some of these other streets like Jordan or Edith, we just don't have the data, and we can definitely put data out or counters out to try and kind of capture that truck data. But this effort on the restrictions is really more an exercise of cleanup about consistency in the field with consistency in the Muni code. That's the latter part of that. The effort here to look at, do other connections make more sense from the standpoint of adding new routes in? That's what we were asked to do. You know, when we put this onto the work plan a couple of years ago, hey, like where are the routes? You know, what else might make sense? You know, San Antonio is an extension of a route, you know, in Mountain View and into Palo Alto, you know, for their portion of San Antonio Road, you know, to try and get trucks into and out of downtown quicker. You know, does El Monte make more sense? You know, that's a discussion that we're having tonight. But the effort while we're here is really to try and clean up what's in the field versus what's in the Muni code.
Thank you, Jaime, for that. Other commissioners? I don't have everybody in the same video pane. Commissioner Ouyang, do you have anything?
Nothing new to add.
Okay. Commissioner DeSnyder, Commissioner Ambiel.
Nothing new either.
Okay. Suzanne, is silence golden?
No comment.
Okay, thank you. So that brings it to me. So I will say, Jaime, we never want to make Homestead Road a truck route. And I think you've heard that loud and clear from the community. And I think I will just say it's not just the kids. You know, I know a mom who says she saw her life flash before her eyes on Foothill Boulevard because of the trucks that go back and forth to the quarry. And we don't need any more challenges on Homestead Road, and just even that intersection of Homestead, Foothill, and Grant, and just a truck blocking visibility alone, not just for bikes and peds, just for drivers and the congestion, just forget about it. They can go around, you know, 85, 280 onto Foothill. And we're not restricting anyone from delivering as they need to. With that said, I would also encourage us to follow up with Cupertino and Sunnyvale to find out what their exact restrictions are and where then we want to place the signs for no trucks. Because I think we definitely want one on Homestead Road. Does it go at our city borders? Like as you cross the creek from Sunnyvale into Los Altos, does it go by 85? Does it go in both of these places? Let's both directions. Let's have a close look at that. I'm in favor of not just the cleanup you're doing, but more signs restricting trucks. And I like how you're wanting to make them visible. I like how you're wanting to show the images of, you know, the X's and saying no trucks. And I think what we've heard from residents, not just the folks tonight on Homestead Road, but when we've had Cuesta here, you know, the residents from Cuesta don't want trucks on Cuesta. What we heard when the Cuesta team is here, sometimes Miramonte residents who were adjacent to Cuesta would speak up and say, but well, there's some trucks cutting through on Miramonte and they don't want trucks there. So I think what we hear loud and clear from our residents every time whether a truck is on the agenda like tonight, or when it comes up in the context of something else, is residents don't want trucks on the streets as little as possible. So let's not add truck routes. Now, the question about El Monte, could we take a closer look at that? Could you talk to the other jurisdictions that are along there and see how they feel about making that a truck route? And then could you take a look at any sort of safety issues, trade-offs, you know, like look at the current route versus like moving them to El Monte, and what are the safety cost benefits trade-offs, and see if the El Monte route makes sense. My gut says that it might. So, but I just want to do a good check of that. I think the other thing that I would say is I'm glad you're cleaning up the code. And I think the more what's in the field and what we directly have in the code and having that alignment is great, and making sure police can enforce where they need to. No trucks is good. It's curious what to do with Jordan and East Portola. I feel like we should make some guide. I know we don't know the history of how they got there, but I do feel like we should make an effort of how do you qualify? How does a street qualify to be expressly called out on this list? And then once we have the qualification criteria, does anybody else get added because they qualify? I'll stop there and say, does that give you all the feedback you need this evening?
I think it does. And I should know, I didn't say it earlier, when we were looking at the additional restrictions, that was based off of what provides a direct connection between, in the existing route, between on and off of El Camino or on and off of Foothill Expressway. So all those new streets that we recommended provide a connection point, you know, to those locations, or a parallel route like the Grant River Frontage Road.
Yeah, thank you. Any other commissioners with comments now after I've shared mine? I'm not hearing anything. So I will thank the community for sharing your feedback with us. We value that. And that's why we're here. So thank you so much. And let's close this item number 6. And let's move on to the update items section of our agenda. And the first
Stacy, real quick before we close that item. So we can definitely do a bit more research. Did you want this to come back? Because if we take it to the city council to do a mini code update, they will ask if there was an action taken by the commission tonight. So even if we don't want to add routes, or we say we reach out to El Monte or to Los Altos Hills and the county, they say, we don't really want to add El Monte, we don't have to, but we can still move forward with the restrictions, because that is a mini code update that the city council has to take action on. So did you want to, as a commission, maybe try and break those two up? Like, hey, do you like the idea of the additional truck routes on both or one of those streets, a yay or nay on each, and then a yay or nay on adding in the additional restrictions?
So thank you for that. Sorry, I was just looking at our agenda and I saw this in the discussion item category, not an action item. But I think what I would say is if I was entertaining a motion, I think it would be, and I'll see what the fellow commissioners want to do, but it would be Homestead Road, not a truck route. El Monte, please further consider and talk with the other jurisdictions on there. And yes, make the, align the community code and add the additional, appropriate signage that you need for supporting no trucks in the city.
And feel free to add Homestead as a no truck route. That would not keep truckers from have the ability to deliver to Foothill Crossings. That would still be okay with them. But if we want to add Foothill as a no truck route, hey, this would be the time.
That would definitely be my proposal, but I have to see how other commissioners feel. So maybe I'll pause there and say, I kind of summarize what I thought should be in a motion, but maybe if somebody wants to make a motion with what you would like to see in a motion. Commissioner Katz, you want to give it a try, or should I call in somebody else?
I'm thinking about it. Call on somebody else for the moment.
Okay, Commissioner Snyder, you want to give it a try?
Not really sure how to do that. So I would
That's fine.
have-
That's fine. I'll make a motion. So I move that we make Homestead Road a no truck route. I move that we ask staff to further explore El Monte Avenue as a potential truck route, and that we adopt the updates alignment with the field to the Muni code. Jaime, does that cover everything that you needed in the motion?
Yes, that's enough for us.
So that is the motion. Does anybody want to second the motion? Commissioner Katz?
I just, before I second it, I'd like to ask whether you wanted to add something to the motion in
What's
terms
that?
of us having one more review of all the streets where we are planning restrictions and understanding the criteria.
I think so for the commission, I know we've been asked by staff sometimes not to keep bringing things back all the time. I'm not sure that we need to keep bringing it back to review that, but I think the notion of the criteria is a good idea. So Jaime, would that be too cumbersome to bring back this item to us? I don't know when you were trying to get it to city council.
No, that would be fine. We can definitely dig up some future criteria. My initial thought is if we did that, it would probably just be a finalization of streets that we want to get into the Muni code, but we're not really adding new streets. And so I think that with the streets that we identified, plus adding in Homestead Road, kind of captures any entry points to protect the community from trucks.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do that. And then when we bring it back, maybe it can be brought back as a quick item. And we can see a lot of the information in the packet.
Right.
So
And
adding to the motion and, whether it needs to be in the motion or not, but return to the commission. Go ahead, Commissioner Katz.
I will second that.
Great, thank you. So we have a motion by myself, a second by Commissioner Katz. And I don't know if I can't see everyone on one screen and not everybody has their video on, so I'm going to do a roll call vote. Commissioner Snyder. So your mic is off, but I think I see you saying yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Ambiel.
Yes.
Commissioner Oyang.
Yes.
Commissioner Katz.
Yes.
Great. Myself, the chair, yes. So that motion passes 5-0 with 2 people absent. So thank you to Commissioner Katz for the suggestion to bring it back, and Jaime for your willingness to do that work. We will do our best as a commission to do it very quickly the next time you have it back. So now we can move on to item number 7. That's the RRFB, the Rapid Rectangle Flashing Beacon Project update. We have several, they're the blinky signs that you push as a pedestrian and they flash at intersections. So I think we have a citywide project going on and an update on this item right now. So Marisa, is this something you're going to give us the update on?
I will introduce this item. Jaime is going to present on it. And Stacy, thank you for that quick intro. We do have a few RRFBs already in Los Altos. RRFB stands for Rectangular Rapid Flashing Beacon, and it is the pedestrian crosswalk sign that has the rectangular light underneath it that flashes after you push the button. We also in Los Altos have a number of flashing crosswalks where the lights are embedded into the pavement. That was industry best practice a number of years ago. A lot of communities used those a number of years ago. And since then, communities have been slowly removing them because they are difficult to maintain, as we've talked about in the past, and cumbersome, and their lifespan isn't forever. And so when you have to replace them, it's a pain. So city communities have been moving to the new industry best practice, which is the RFBs. And so we've been putting together a plan set to replace all of the in-pavement flashing lights with RFBs to meet industry best practice. So Jaime is going to give a quick update on that. We're finalizing the plan set and getting ready to put it out to bid.
Thanks, Marisa. Let me share screen again. Give me 1 second. I apologize. I'm actually walking out of a library, so if I don't lose signal here. Let's see. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. Let me slideshow live. Awesome. Okay. So yeah, so as Marisha mentioned, this project is really we're just here to give you guys an update tonight on a project that we plan to implement. And we came to the commission, I want to say it's been about a year, Chair, maybe a little over a year. And we at that time we talked about what type of head activated beacon systems might be a good fit for Los Altos. And knowing that we had a kind of a mixture of different solutions throughout the community. There's the rapid rectangular flashing beacons, or the RFB bars at some of the newer installations. We've got some historical installations where we have just say LEDs embedded in a sign, or we have in pavement flashers. And a lot of those pavement flashers just simply failed now for several years. And we have several sites where we just don't have any type of flashing beacon system working at all. So we've got a total of 15 flashing beacon crosswalk systems. Actually, I take that back, 16 throughout the city. Our newer installation at El Monte and Mills is not on this list, but at the other 15 sites, we have some type of historical type of solution, and those are all different. And what we had talked about a year and a half ago was standardizing the same type of equipment throughout the city, because when equipment fails, it'll be easier for us to maintain by having a stock kind of at our corporation yard, having kind of consistency what all the beacons kind of look like and feel around town. And at the time, we actually asked about adding some potential additional enhancements to the beacons, specifically making sure that all of our RFBs had what's called an accessible pedestrian signal button that kind of talks to the pedestrian as an interaction to tell them to let them know that the light systems are on and activated, and also to install some type of a spotlight system so that if a pedestrian's looking across the street kind of at dusk or in the late night, that the pedestrians get a little bit more visual attention by the motorists by shining that spotlight down at the street. So all the sites on this map were sites where we want to add beacons in by replacing the systems that are there. Most of those are along San Antonio Road, where there's the cluster of our majority of our beacons. We have a couple of additional sites along Almond Avenue at the high school and at Almond Elementary. And we've got some scattered sites. There are 2 sites on San Antonio that actually don't have beacons today, Alma Court and Yerba Buena. So we want to, if we're taking an effort of installing beacons, we also wanted to add beacons where we thought that they were missing. And that's what's on this list as these 3 additional alternative sites, because our priority is to fix what's out there. But if we have enough money, we actually want to expand our system. So these 15 sites would be coupled by 2 new RRFBs, funding pending, at San Antonio Alma, San Antonio Yerba Buena, and an installation at Gavilan and Cuesta. These actually are all sites where our RFBs are also we're also going through this as an effort to implement that program for our Safe Routes to School recommendations. So up on the right is an example of our most recent RFB installation at El Monte and Mills, and it really serves as a model for what we would install throughout the rest of the town. And these are the details that we put into our plan set, which is pretty much ready to bid. We could release this as fast as next week, pending any final input from the commission tonight. And you see up here that we're proposing to add the spotlights at an installation that's similar to the one on the right. But if we're putting in an RFB at a site where we're adding equipment onto a street light, we didn't call out the additional spotlight installation, given that it's right below a street light in the street. And here's an example of the kind of RRFB on the bottom right, kind of shining onto a crosswalk in the Eagle. And not all sites allow us to kind of have a full system with a solar panel. One of the installations that we're proposing at Fremont and Fallen Leaf, there's just so many trees, we would never be able to install a solar panel, in this areas and have the batteries receive power. So we've got spotlights, or only one pole in the middle of the street with a large solar panel that then powers up the RRP systems on the rest of the street. So I'm going to stop my presentation with this slide one more time, where we're proposing to replace our old RRPs at 15 locations and expand out to 3 more, leaving us really with a total of 19 locations, including El Monte and Mills. So with that, I'll stop and send it back to you.
Thank you, Jaime, for that presentation. And before I think we'll, since this is just an update item, I think we'll go to public comments first, and then we'll come back to the commission. But what I will say before we open up public comments is, I think when you're saying Fremont and Fallen Leaf, I think you mean Homestead and Fallen Leaf, because the existing RRFB is at Homestead and Fallen Leaf, not Fremont and Fallen Leaf. Is that right?
Actually, this project is both of those locations.
So you're that's one you were going to add.
This is an additional new RRFB at the crosswalk that we just added last year as part of the Fremont Avenue street improvements and repaving work that we did. We added a crosswalk at that time with support from this commission, but that doesn't have any type of RRFB system. So that would be new. And then this would replace some of the failed equipment at Homestead and Fallen Leaf as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Because I remember when we did the Fremont Avenue review that there was the ask for having some lighted crossing there. So I'm glad to hear that this covers both of them.
And just as a reminder, since you brought it up, only because you brought it up, Stacey, if that was your fault, but the Homestead Road Safe Routes to School program does call out for a new traffic signal at Homestead and Fallen Leaf. So this would just be a repair up until that project gets moving.
So let's first open up for public comments. Are there any members of the public that have a comment or question on this item? You can raise your hand in the Zoom app, or you can you can also press *9 on your phone. And just to let Dave Single know, your hand is still up from the previous item. So if you want to speak on this item too, you may, and I will call on you, or you may also lower your hand. So public speakers for this item. I see Dave Single with his hand up. Dave, did you want to speak? I'm not hearing anything, so maybe not. Does anybody else want to speak on this item? And if you do have any comments, Dave, or anyone else, you can also email them in to staff after our meeting tonight as well. I'm not seeing or hearing any other public comments. So let's move to commission questions and feedback. Who from the commission would like to go first? And let's see, Commissioner Ouyang, do you want to go first? No. Commissioner Snyder, do you want to go first?
I can. So I guess this was done more than a year ago, it sounds like, because this is the first time I'm seeing this on the commission, or that I remember it. So it must have been a year or more ago. And one of the comments I have there that Fallen Leaf is that from my experience, I see more pedestrians, bicyclists, traffic at Truman and Newcastle as opposed to Fallen Leaf. And so I don't know if there was any data taken to actually look and see where these things were, should be, because I know there's a lot of other crosswalks down toward Grant on Fremont and other places. Was there data for this? And was there, public opinion put on I know we've had those, what they call them, sandwich boards out there for public comment. Because I don't remember seeing any of those either. And is there a limit to number of these? Like, is there a budget we can only do like these 16 or 19? And how do you get more of these put out there?
Sure. So this project really it's more of a maintenance project. We've had several failed intersections that have some type of a beacon where either one of the beacons on one pole is out, or kind of LEDs within certain signs are out, or a whole system's just not working altogether. And so we came to the commission about a year ago with the concept of this project and then recommended standardization on the RRFB system. But the project is just maintenance. So we were really just replacing and standardizing equipment at all the sites that had existing crosswalk beacon systems. And then the effort that the city went through to identify where new beacons would be required or might be appropriate, that was actually done as part of the Complete Streets Master Plan with the Safe Routes to School study. So each of the Safe Routes to School improvement maps identified potential new RRFB sites. That's why we picked the two sites at Yerba Buena and Alma on San Antonio. One, because we were already doing everything else on San Antonio, and why we picked Cuesta and I'm forgetting the street name already, and Gavilan, only because it was a recommendation from the network, and it was the one location where we received requests from community members in the past to say, hey, we're looking to see some type of improvement along Cuesta Drive. So we figured, hey, if we've got extra money, let's do it there. And I hadn't heard any specific requests regarding Truman and Newcastle. Is that the location that you said?
I'm just saying that I think those have more pedestrian and bicycle traffic than Fallen Leaf.
So we can definitely compare that against the recommendations of the Complete Streets Master Plan, Safe Routes to School studies. And the plan eventually is to build out all of those improvements. And so if it's already on that list, then it eventually will. It's just a matter of time and funding.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Katz.
Yeah, Jaime, I remember the last conversation we had, and I think it was over a year ago. And you're right. I think the primary driver that was talked about then was the cost of maintaining the current systems that have a relatively high failure rate, both in terms of labor and also replacing the lights that are embedded in the surface of the street. Since that proposal, has the cost of the acquisition and installation of the new systems changed significantly?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking. So definitely the RRFB systems have come down because they become more of a national standard. More companies make them, there's more competition. So the specific company that we recommended as a equipment product line for the RRFB is a company called TAPCO, is the largest manufacturer of those systems. Their prices have actually come down for RRFB systems. The other systems that are legacy systems that are in the pavement, those costs have gone up. So really the cost of two RRFB systems, just the equipment, is about the cost of one old system. And the parts would just take a lot longer to get.
Okay, and then my second question is this. As we replace these systems, would it make sense to replace the ones that are not functioning adequately today as a phase one, and then take a look at how well they work in terms of actually protecting cyclists and pedestrians in the crosswalks? And then in phase two, replace the ones that are actually functioning okay right now. For example, I know the ones on San Antonio Road pretty well because I use them almost on a daily basis. And they actually do stop cars when you press the button and the cars see the lights flashing. And so I don't know whether that makes sense or not, but it would seem to me that it might be prudent to do a phase one, take a look at it for, I don't know, a couple months, perhaps, and then implement phase two. What are your thoughts about that?
My thought there is that we're going to see probably a larger bang for buck from the city's perspective in doing more in quantity. So I'll use the example of the San Antonio signs. The sign posts that support the existing beacons along San Antonio have a much smaller solar panel on them, and the sign post itself, if I remember correctly, is a 2.5-inch steel post. Those don't support a lot of weight. So the systems we're trying to move to that have larger battery packs and boxes to house the packs require a larger solar panel because we want to be able to provide a larger battery that will have a longer life. And this past late December, January is a really good example. There was no rain for almost, no sunlight for almost 2 weeks in some parts of California. And a lot of our vehicle speed feedback signs in Los Altos that tell you how fast you're driving, a lot of those went out because there was no sun to recharge those batteries. And so we're actually going to replace all of those skinny 2.5-inch poles in the field with 4-inch steel poles that are beefier to support those larger solar panels. So the contractor that gets this job will actually be replacing all the old poles, putting in new poles at the same locations as the old. We'll be using flat black poles just to provide a little bit something of a more aesthetic pole in Los Altos than just a standard steel gray pole. And so we'll get more bang for buck by doing more at once. And these are proven industry standard devices. They're a recommendation already made within the Complete Streets Master Plan. We have a lot of sites that are failed. We just want to replace them because it does have a long-term liability for the city. And we'll have a good supply of these RRFB bars that our staff can swap out. We won't have to rely on contractors anymore to do the work.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Commissioner Ambio, any questions? Okay. So I think let's wrap up this item. I think, Jaime, I'm in supportive of moving forward with all these. We've been waiting for this project a long time. I think you sort of have the trial one in at Mills and have convinced yourself. And I assume there's been a lot more diligence this time selecting vendors, and these RFBs have been around a much longer, and hopefully you have selected a good vendor, but I agree that there is economics of scale and staff timing of scale to move forward with this.
Thank you, guys. We'll get it wrapped up for the community as quickly as we can.
Thank you. Let's move to the next item, and that is the OBEG grant. Marisa, you promised us some good news tonight.
Yes, finally some good news, right? I'm going to share my screen too. Okay, so as a reminder, this is just an update item. Normally I would have put this and the previous item just under the staff updates where we do verbal updates quickly and don't have a discussion, but just so that we can show you some graphics, we decided to do a quick presentation, but like the previous item, there's nothing really to discuss here. So just keep that in mind that this is an update and a staff report. This is regarding the OBAG 3 grant application. And this is our agenda for this quick presentation. I'll give you the background on the OBAG 3 grant, and then I will introduce the North San Antonio Protected Bikeway Complete Streets project, and then show you the maps and the diagrams. And then I'll show you a photo of the current conditions, and then we will talk about the award briefly. So as far as the OBAG background, it's the One Bay Area grant, and it distributes federal transportation funding from the Federal Highway Administration to projects and programs that improve safety, economic development, and help the Bay Area meet climate change and air quality improvement goals. This was the third round of the One Bay Area grant, so that's why it's called OBAG 3. There were 2 previous rounds, and it was adopted in January of 2022, and it included $750 million in federal funding projects. And the application deadline was quite some time ago, maybe in the spring, and city staff put together an application. We actually put together 2 applications. We hired Alta Planning and Design to put one together for us for Loyola Corners, and that one was not awarded. And then Jaime and I ourselves put together the San Antonio Protected Bikeway and Complete Streets project application, and we did receive an award, which is really exciting news for Los Altos. So this is some text that was kind of taken out of the introduction to the project in the grant application. And so we just highlighted that it connects this Protected Bikeway and Complete Streets project runs all along North San Antonio Road. I'll show you the project extents in a minute, but it's from El Camino Real all the way down to Foothill Expressway. And And it includes connections to key commercial areas, residential areas, civic spaces, schools, the community center, the library, downtown Los Altos, the Caltrain station, and El Camino Real transit lines, and also the planned protected bikeways on El Camino Real. And the project seeks to create safer and more comfortable streets for all users. And it utilizes Complete Streets best practices, including protected bikeways, improved integration between transit and bicycles, enhanced crosswalks, and preservation of the existing sidewalks. And this route is a suggested route to school for 2 public schools in Los Altos, and also one of the few north-south corridors that traverses the whole city. And this project was the #1 priority bike project from the prioritization in the Complete Streets Master Plan. And this project was supported by the Climate Action Planning Committee. And as you will recall, coordination with the Climate Action Planning Committee was one of the Complete Streets Commission goals last year and this year. This red line is the project extents. So as you can see, it connects to El Camino Real on the north side and down to Foothill Expressway on the south side. And you can see some of the key locations that it creates a connection to or near. And Jaime and his team detailed some concept drawings for the entire corridor. I've just included here a quick kind of snapshot of a segment that's kind of representative of the whole corridor, so we don't have to go through the whole thing. But as you can see, we have protected bikeways, so this includes a painted buffer and also a vertical element, and green conflict markings at the bus stops and across the intersections, enhanced crosswalks. And also a feature of this project is that it reconstructs the median island, which has gotten a little bit low over the decades due to the repaving projects. I'm sure you're familiar with the current conditions out there. This is what it looks like. It's a tiny bike lane and a 35-mile speed limit, which we were talking about NACTO guidance earlier in this meeting. NACTO guidance doesn't recommend unprotected bike lanes with the speed limit. So once you get to about this threshold of speed limits, NACTO recommends a buffer or a protection or a vertical element or all of the above. So the award that we received was $7.3 million. This was just announced recently on the 11th of January. And just to give you an idea of some of the line items that are included, it's the reconstruction of the median, the protected bikeways, the improved bus stop markings, median landscaping to make the area more walkable, livable, and then improved signage and striping for the bikeways. So that concludes this presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. I'm going to first open it up for public comments or public questions on this item, and then we'll come back to the commission for questions and comments. So any members of the public who would like to make a public comment now on this item, you may raise your hand in the Zoom app or press *9 on your phone. Not seeing any, so we'll do our going once. Oh, we have a comment, great. So I'm going to call on Mark for this item. Mark, you have up to 3 minutes to address this commission, and it's your choice if you want to turn your video on or just keep it off. So that's up to you. So you may unmute yourself and go ahead with your 3 minutes.
I won't need 3 minutes. I just wanted to say how exciting that is. Congratulations. Nice work, Jaime and Marisa. Yeah, fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you for that feedback, Mark. Anyone else with a comment on this item? I think we were going twice and gone, so we are now gone. Now, commissioners, comments, questions on this item. Commissioner Anbeal, you are back first again.
Back. Couple questions, Marisa. One, wow, $7.2 million. That's probably the biggest grant we have ever received. So kudos all around the room on that. Couple questions. One is, what is the physical barrier that you are recommending? Aside from the paint stripe, is there also some other physical barrier between lanes of traffic and the bike lane. And then two, my question is, what is the time frame for this? Do they have any timing restrictions that say you've got to start by X and be 30% done by Y? In the long ago times, way back, like 20 years ago, Los Altos had received some grants, and because they didn't finish the projects in a timely fashion, those grants were yanked and we were verboten. We got a bad mark. So comments on that, please. Thank you.
Definitely. Yes, we did propose a vertical element. As you know, when we're putting together these applications for grants, we put together a concept drawing of, what we could do. And then after that, we go through an actual design phase. So there'll be public outreach and there'll be actual design, and we'll hire consultants to do the design. That was also part of the line items. So all of that will get ironed out as far as the details. And same thing with the timeline. Nothing has been shared so far as the timeline. I have seen other grant applications where the timeline, where like a construction deadline is written into the original grant materials. That wasn't the case for this grant. And like I said, we submitted the application, I don't know, probably like more than 6 months ago, and just got official word that we received the award last week. So I'm sure all that information is still to come, and I'll keep you updated.
Last question. If the timeline comes in because of the significant nature of this project and the external funding, is it likely that this project will bump priority from other projects? In other words, this one will come to the top and other ones may slip to the bottom. And what's your trade-off proposal should that happen? You may not have that answer tonight, but I would love to know what that might be from the city's perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, from my perspective, if there was a timeline, this project, and even if there's not, this project will rise to the top as far as priorities, especially considering that it was the #1 prioritized bicycle project in the Complete Streets Master Plan. As far as other projects that would, maybe be put on second tier as far as priority to make room for this one, I don't have, really a sense at this point of what those projects might be. I think that we're kind of in a position right now where we are, moving forward with the signage and striping Safe Routes to School program that's underway. We have the RFB program moving forward, and I think we're kind of in a position where we're ready to get started on something new. So I think we're in a good place.
Other commissioners with questions or comments on this item?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
But first, thanks for the work you guys did on that. That sounds like it was great to get that kind of money. Did we actually request more than that? Like say we request 10 million and only got 7.3 million?
We had originally requested a little bit more. It wasn't a significant amount more. And VTA got back to us that they had this amount, and could we kind of like, rework our cost estimate to accommodate it. And so that's what we did.
Okay, so kind of what they were saying is a timeline. Is there a deadline attached to this award?
No, not that we know of at this time.
So that would be really good to know, because I would think kind of like what Suzanne was saying, that we probably need to adjust priorities if there was a deadline to complete all the things that were associated with this.
Absolutely. Yeah, if there's a deadline, we will work to meet the deadline.
Yeah, I think the deadline will come.
Hey, Maurice, usually it's 3 years. Usually when they give you a grant funding, you got about 3 years to wrap up the project. So there is time.
Okay, well is that enough money to cover everything that we wanted to do, or will we need a little bit more so it'll be made up by other funds that we currently have?
We have enough to cover most of the stuff we want to do. One thing that we'll consider is resurfacing San Antonio at the time that we do this project based on the PCI. And so that would be an additional expense.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioners with questions or comments? Commissioner?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Cindy, you can go ahead. You've often go last.
It was going to be quick. Suzanne and Tom already asked my other questions. The only one I have is, this is an exciting project, and it sounds like, there's going to be a lot of interest from the public around it too. When can we expect that we will start making progress, or that this project would come back to the commission?
I think that order of operations would be probably hiring a design consultant first, and then come back to the commission after that. So probably not for a handful of months.
And that was all.
Commissioner Katz, you're next.
I think you answered all my questions, so thank you very much. It's a really fantastic win. Great job to you and the staff and to Jaime. That's terrific.
Thank you.
I think there's nothing else I can add. Besides, I'll just echo what Commissioner Ouyang said, is that the community is definitely going to want to give a lot of input on this project as we go along, and also just to learn about it. So look forward to when you have designer on board and are ready to take community, not just commission input, but community input, as well as just letting everybody know the details of this project. I think it's significant that we achieved this grant because there were a lot of applicants throughout the county who did not get money. I think Marisa alluded earlier tonight to Homestead Road, which also applied and did not get funded for this. So so it's very fortunate that we received this. And I think we were the only Safe Routes applicant that the VTA advanced to MTC for part of the selection. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's move off of this item. I know we'll hear a lot more about it, and I know the public is going to have a lot more feedback on this item for us upcoming. And now that we've closed item number 8, we are at the end of our meeting, and we move to commissioner reports and comments. Any commissioners with reports or comments this evening? I'm not seeing anyone. I don't think I even have one tonight. I will just say I was re-elected to be the VTA BPAC chair again this year for calendar year 2023. So just letting everyone know that. And maybe Marisa, are we soon expecting an announcement from the city about the requirement to return to in-person meetings?
Yeah, I do have 2 updates for you during the staff report section.
Okay, great. I'm not seeing a staff report section on my agenda tonight, but so since I'm not hearing any more commissioner reports right now, why don't you go ahead with what you have?
Okay, great. So I think that what I've heard so far is that there will be more direction coming out of a council meeting in February. However, the news that we have at this time is that starting in March, we will be going back to in-person. And I don't know any of the details at this time. It sounds like there will not be an option for a hybrid. It will be in-person only. But that is the decision that will come out of the February council meeting. So I will keep you posted on that. So I think starting in March, we'll have to plan for in person. Also, I know we have the combined Planning Commission, Complete Streets Commission on March, I believe 17th. I am guessing at this time that that might need to be in person, but I will also keep you posted on that. And then while we're doing announcements, as far as the February meeting, I will be out of the office during our February meeting. And I know Stacy, the chair, will also be potentially absent. Yeah. So I will keep in touch with you regarding, I'm going to kind of talk to the team and see if we have any pressing items for February that can go on in my absence, or since we do have the 2 meetings in March, we have the March 17th joint meeting with Planning Commission and then our regularly scheduled last Wednesday of the month meeting in March. Perhaps we will skip the February meeting and just have the 2 meetings in February. So I'll be in touch with you about that.
Marisa, I have the March meeting as March 16th. I think that's what was in the email that went out, which is the day before St. Patty's Day.
Okay, that's probably right then. I'm just speaking from memory. So yeah, it's not on Friday, it's on Thursday, the 16th. Thank you.
A question. When you mentioned the meetings not having a hybrid option, did you mean just for the commissioners? Will the public be able to still join us online?
I don't know yet. Yeah, I'll let you know when I know.
Okay, sorry, we're prematurely asking these questions. But I think it was just good to give the commissioners a heads up on changes are coming. Anyone else with comments, questions for Marisa? I don't see any. So now we have the potential future agenda items section of the agenda. Does anyone have anything they want to bring up? Commissioner Ambio.
Yeah, I just want to elevate and raise awareness around, May is coming. I know it's January, but May is coming, and that is Bike Month. And I don't know what the commission's plans are around Bike to Anywhere Day or Bike to Work Day. I don't even know what it's going to be, but I just want to elevate that and say, keep that on our eye line.
Yeah. And just to let you know, I think we received an email. I don't know if that was from Marisa or Andrean, that if any commissioners want to volunteer and be involved, to let them know. And so I let them know, and I've received doodle polls about availability, and it'll be similar to last year where we do joint planning with Greentown and whoever else wants to be involved. So you're welcome to join us. But I do know that there was a doodle poll for when is our first meeting. So the planning should start soon.
That did come from Andrea. She is coordinating our Bike Month activities.
And if any
this
commissioner
year and
didn't-
last year.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you. If
So
any
please
commissioner didn't
go ahead and reach out to her.
Yeah,
You would
exactly.
like to join.
If you didn't, especially if you didn't get that email, you're welcome to join. So feel free to reach out to her. Anyone else want to raise a future potential agenda item? I know we all have, there's lots of stuff that we all know about already. So I'm not hearing anything else. So now is the time of the evening where we do adjournment at 8:36 p.m. I think watch for news from Marisa about, are we having a February meeting or not? And then watch for news about the meetings shifting to in-person. So good night, everyone. We are adjourned.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.